It's Tuesday, which means it's time to submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. Folks, I'm your host, Jeff Hicks. You know me from YouTube because you're watching me on YouTube, but I'm not alone. Tonight, I'm joined by my co-host, the one, the only, Caffeinated Wolf.
What's going on, guys? What is going on, Jeff? Hail to you, chat. Great to be back. Tuesday night, best show on a Tuesday night is here for you. It's the High Council. We are so back. This is going to be a show of Titanic proportions.
Oh, yeah. We'll even talk about some Titans, too, folks. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Now, we're waiting for Script Doctor. We didn't want to wait too long to make you guys wait because we know how it is. It's a Tuesday night. You have to go to work Wednesday. Or if you're like me, you got to get amped up to watch X-Men. So, folks, that's a quick transition to say tomorrow we'll have our next X-Men review out. You guys like those. I'll keep doing those. We'll do the whole series. And apparently everyone that was waiting for the other shoe to drop is still waiting for the other shoe to drop. So join me this week.
That's what I
Will
hear.
the shoe drop? Let's find out together. It's refreshing, man, to watch the show and go, oh, that was cool. And then just like think about how cool it was, not be angry about, oh no, Madeline Pryor didn't go to Alaska first. It's like, no, it's a fun show.
If we were gonna spend that much time on Inferno, then that alone would be like 3 seasons.
A season, dude. Inferno is ridiculous because if you do the Inferno storyline, you got to do all of the Marvel characters because it was a huge crossover.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to go to get Spider-Man and the Demogoblin and all that crap. Like, see, this is what I want to happen. I want them to make their movies on the big screen and people can do whatever. I want them to create a Marvel animated universe where they adapt the comic book series just like in order. Not every issue needs to be into something.
Sure.
But it'd be cool to just see like trajectory of like, all right, so our first season's like Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Hulk, and this, and the Avengers, whatever. And you just, go on and just tell animated versions of these things. You got Disney Plus, you can do it that way. And then you can do the crossovers and you can do those like a whole season of a crossover. It's like Marvel presents Inferno, and it's literally all of Inferno because you've already introduced all the characters. Or when you do Secret Wars, you don't need to just like pick a couple recognizable characters. You can get all of them because they've at least somewhat been referenced in these past cartoons. And still make your movie, still do your stuff, but I wouldn't be upset if they did just cartoons. Animation is cool. It's a great form. I've been watching a lot of Star Trek animated, so it's something else I'd like to watch. Script, what is up, my friend?
Yeah, what's going on, Script?
Sorry, I'm late, but I'm happy to be here, guys. Continue, please.
Good to have you. Well, I mean, DC proved that you can do nigh one-to-one animation of the comics and it be very successful and very well received. The Flashpoint Paradox animated film takes a couple of liberties, but the story of Flashpoint is almost entirely intact and the characters are entirely intact. And so people that read the book where is it? Flashpoint. This one. People that read this and then watch the movie are like, yeah, I just read that. Yeah. That's Flashpoint.
They're both terrible stories, yes.
As opposed to going and watching whatever the hell that was that DC put out last year. And having no idea what you're actually supposed to be looking at. So they've proven that you can do one-to-one and audiences receive it well. I don't know why Marvel doesn't do the same.
Because they got people that don't
in their animation department. That's why they just don't have anyone that cares. They got rid of Man of Action. I can't remember what his real name is, but that was his pen name when he was writing Marvel cartoons back in the day. Yeah, well, that's Disney. Disney purged out a lot of the creatives that could do those one-to-ones. Or at least fair adaptations that integrate well with the overall, story they're telling.
I just wish we would have. Look, my thing would have been cool. I wish we would have just had Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes continue because I felt like they captured every era of Marvel in one thing. So, well, as a fan, we can't have nice things. Now, folks, as a fan of this channel, we want to thank you guys. We want to give you some quick housekeeping updates because this is the only time we're going live this week. I'm heading off to WrestleMania. I'm actually celebrating early. That's why there's no suit jacket. There's just a shirt that is The Rock. I wore this to Las Vegas, and you know how Vegas is. You don't know where you're going to end up. So I ended up in a strip club in this shirt, and the lady's like, "Why are you on your shirt?" So I was like, "Thank you, lady." And so I bought a lap dance.
Why are
from
you
her.
wearing? That's great.
Well,
Why
like,
are you
thanks,
on your
lady.
own shirt?
It was a huge ego boost. So thanks. I don't even remember her name. But anyway, folks, we're going to WrestleMania. We go every single year. I've been going every year since 2006, sans COVID. So I am back. Dion will be there.
That's almost
you
two
will see.
decades, man.
That is almost 2 decades. I started in high school. I had a burger job at Rowley's Checkers, and I had a dream. There we go. And so I wanted to go to WrestleMania. My mom's like, "Well, save your money." So I worked every weekend, and I saved like $2,000. And this is like a kid in high school in 05.
$2,000 may as well be 20 grand when you're in high school.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god,
big money.
I was like, I gotta work, and then I was going to school and playing football, so I had no free time. But WrestleMania was in my sights, and it was awesome. I went back again one more year in high school, and I graduated. And then I started going with college friends. And so, folks, the reason I tell you that is it'll be a little different in terms of our schedule. There will be no Thursday show because the guys and I could not all assemble last night to record said episode. So there will not be an episode of the podcast. Plus, for some reason...
Whose fault was it? Was it
two of them,
Kendo's?
actually.
Oh.
No, Kendo was the only one that was available.
Oh,
It was
okay.
me and Kendo. Nick and Dion Dion's got a family, and Dion's getting ready to come to WrestleMania, so he has to take care of babysitter stuff, taking stuff. He's got to be gone for a week with kids.
I guess he can be a responsible father, and that's
and then,
that's fine.
Nick's doing Nick stuff, so that's pretty cool too. But
Building Legos.
yeah, not this week actually. Yeah, we have a lot of
those are relaxing streams on Twitch, honestly. When he's just building Legos, and part of it's also the music that he's got going on in the background. It's like, all right, I can work to this, I can jive to this. Well, I'm just over
He's
here
cultivating
working on
that
playlist.
What else did I say about this? So, folks, Friday, join us. Be on the lookout because YouTube doesn't like to let you know when we go live. I got to look more into that. I've been taking screenshots. By the way, folks, if you ever have that issue, put it in the comments section, and I can use those screenshots to say, "Hey, look, fix the stuff." Mm-hmm. So, join us on Friday for cheesesteaks, the Rocky Steps, and some other fun stuff. Now, if you're going to be in town for WrestleMania, you can join us at 1 o'clock on Friday. We'll be at Pat's Cheesesteaks. We don't have to eat there. We'll just meet there because it's simple. We want to go, and you know what? Let's change it. Let's meet at noon at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the Rocky Stairs. If you're going to join us, meet us there. We'll wait around for 20 to 30 minutes. If you're there, cool. If not, find us on Twitter. We'll be tweeting where we are through the entire weekend. So if you're going to be at Fan Access, you can join us. If you're going to be at WrestleMania, well, you can't join us because you don't have tickets next to us. But come see us after the show. Come hang out. We might be doing a crossover with a couple YouTube channels as well. So be on the lookout for all of that content from us here. 2 more things of business. First off, Wokebusters, we're pushing it back about 2 weeks. It'll be ready by the end of this month for everybody to go back on Kickstarter and all that. We don't want to be, we want to just be ready. That's it. I wanted a couple more things done. I had a couple last minute things and tweaks I wanted to add because if you're going to put something out that's taking you this long to make, it's got to be perfect across the board. So I'm making sure it's all perfect, including the promotion. So if anyone's curious, for some reason, though, I also bring this up too. People at Horror Hound thought Wokebusters was fake. They thought it was just a joke. Like, oh, that's a great thing. I'm like, yeah, take a flyer and buy the book. They go, this is real. As soon as I found out it's real, they're straight up like, oh, I can't wait to read it. I'm like, yeah, it'll be out in a few weeks. But I just want to reassure everyone because I guess 5 people at a convention make me go, people on the internet might not think this is real either, but Wokebusters is real and it's here to change comic books in 2024, 2025.
It's real
moving on.
And it's outstanding.
Well, I'm excited, man. I can't talk about my work in that way because it sounds like I'm trying to pat myself on the back. I don't need to do that, but I do share it with people when everybody's very excited. So, folks, if you enjoy comedy, it doesn't even have to matter if you like our comedy. If you just like comedy in general, Wokebusters is the book for you. Yes, Dr. Coffinails, I know you're excited. A few weeks, we'll be launching the campaign, and the books will be taken care of and shipped right out. It's great to have a done book. So, folks, go to Kickstarter for that. And the second piece of news is join us tomorrow. Oh, and we have a toy video this week. And guess what, guys? Reva is finally on clearance. I found her. I don't know if I'm the first person, but I found so many of these things. I tried to do a tower of
I
Pico.
saw that photo.
I couldn't stack them up because the way the boxes are, I had to hold the tower. And so in the video, you will see a tower that goes to my chest.
Slanted ones now.
They watched the last video and they went, we don't want to be embarrassed by this guy, so we're going to change the box shape. So they did. And
It's all your
was
fault,
like,
Jeff.
I was like, screw it. Look, you can blame me for so many things, including Kevin Smith's heart attack, according to Mundane Matt. So I'll take it.
Wow.
But no, folks, if you want to see that giant tower of Rivas that will never sell, as well as other things in this awesome toy video, well, make sure you're on the lookout for that this Saturday. That'll be live the usual time here on the channel. We want to make it like we're not even gone. Oh, and if you're a member and a patron, you're going to get the Larry Bundy interview. It's almost 3 hours long. So be on the lookout for that. Tomorrow, I should upload it. And if it goes live tomorrow, awesome. But it'll be going live in the next 2 days. So, folks, without any further ado, let's start the show. Sorry for all the exposition dump. You can call me Basil Exposition, but I had to get that out of the way so no one is confused. Plus, we can't really bury important information deep into an episode because people have time. They have other obligations, even though WCBS should always be at the top of your list, folks.
This is true. So I'm not biased at all.
No. We could never, ever be biased. So, folks, it's time for the word of the day. Brought to you by Shrebbles08 with his $5.69 super chat. I see what you did there, Shrebbles. The word of the day is honkers. Joker, the honker is a stage. How Stella got her honkers back. Good for her. Hot tub honkers machine and a fistful of honkers. You win on that one. I'm not even going to try to
Honey,
good,
I
the bad and the
honkers.
honkers, man. Yeah.
Honey, I Shrunk the Honkers. Disappointing.
That's
You're
a horror
fired.
right there.
It's sad. Yeah.
Starring Florence Pugh.
Oh, wow. You went there.
Honkers all the way.
Ooh. I like the way you think, sir. Honkers Busters.
Enter the honkers.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Honkers.
Oh God,
that sounds like an anime.
Yeah. So I've been doing research for this like project. That's not the next one, but the one out. And I've been watching some really weird anime. Man, we're gonna talk off air because I want to know if you've seen some of this stuff. So
really weird anime is a very broad statement, Jeff.
But the weird thing is, it's like I'm studying it for the like emotional impact that the art brings, not the actual story or the like depravity of it. See, folks, I love comics.
And the authors and Playboy's writing styles are very interesting.
No, I can't go on that one, man. Those cartoons, though, are legit. They're Doug Sneed cartoons. I have legitimately studied those. I have a big book of them. Because it's like, you'd think I'd buy Playboy cartoon books because, No, I actually bought them because I'm like, wait, this is really cool art, and I need to learn how to draw like this. So somewhere in my California box is a book on Playboy cartoons that I bought for the worst reason ever. I'm sorry.
Well, I believe you put out an art book that probably took advantage of some of that.
Oh, I did. And dude, when I was at the con, more women than men bought that book. Guys were just like, is that real? I'm like, yeah. And then they ran off. Women were like, show me your tits and art. And they got into it, man. Like they wanted this pitch. They wanted the spiel. This woman talked to me for 40 minutes and still bought a book. She's like, tell me more about it. What's the inspiration for this piece? I'm like,
hey, man, that's the great thing about geeks. Geeks just like cool stuff. We just enjoy cool shit. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like. Like, show me some cool shit, and I'll probably give you money for it. Like it's that simple. It's the same reason it's that very reason why I'm probably going to go back and see Godzilla X Kong like at least 2 more times in theaters.
I don't blame you. I am going to watch. Okay, so I'm not going to like put it out there to commit. Oh, I'll go see it 2 or 3 more times in theaters. I'll just flat out buy it on disc because it's one of those movies where you don't watch it because you're trying to get a deep, complex story. It knows what it is, and
fun.
It's. I won't call it like completely dumb because it has like over the top coherent stuff. Oh yeah, but stories. That's what I was gonna say. The story's coherent to the point where you're like, okay, maybe it's not deep, but you're like, all right, this is kind of. And the emoting from the CGI animals was a shocker. Like,
yeah,
I can't believe how enjoyable I was. Like,
and I will challenge anyone to find me a cooler, more out of control monster sequence than that one near the end. You know what I'm talking about.
I gotta say, the part of the movie that still sticks with me is when Godzilla turned that one monster to soup.
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, what the hell? That was gnarly. So, folks, we put out a review. You really can't spoil Kong X Godzilla because it's just two monsters. Well, it's monsters fighting. Like,
Mhm.
there's a big reveal that I have never talked about because there is like a big twist surprise. You're like, oh my god, blank, and you watch it and you go, this is awesome. I've never seen blank look this cool. So I didn't want to take that from you. So just watch the review and then watch the movie and then watch the review again.
Yes.
But no, folks, thank
agree
you
on
for
all
everything,
counts.
guys. We're going to answer these two messages, and then I do want to talk about something that's important. Just, because I'm being asked about it. Xavier the God says, sorry for what X-Men 97 did to Storm, Andrew.
What'd they do to Storm?
Sorry for what X-Men 97 did to Storm. X-Men 97 didn't do anything to Storm. They did stuff that, at least nothing that hadn't already been done in the comics. You talking about her
Bingo.
losing her powers? Or are you talking about her losing her, admittedly, my preferred hairstyle for her? I like the big, crazy, wild goddess long hair. I've never been a fan of the mohawk, but the mohawk's been a thing for decades, guys.
Yeah, they
That
kept
is
her boobs too.
That is not new. Yeah, they kept her womanly figure. Like, Storm is
Same
still
for Goblin
Storm there.
Queen.
Yeah, don't let other people tell you that they changed Storm for some weird agenda, because all they did was adapt the comics. What have we comic fans been bitching about for the last half decade? That they're not adapting the comics accurately? Well, they did that.
I think the only error in 97 is that they think the original X-Men cartoon took place over the course of 9 years, but it doesn't. It actually takes place over the course of 1 year. Because I think in season 4, Jubilee celebrates her first Christmas at the mansion. And that's season 4.
Yeah, I need to go back and rewatch that entire series. But where did the people get 9 years from? There's no way.
Or 5 years.
I've never
years.
thought
Or 5 years, excuse me.
I don't know. I don't know.
That is news to me.
Yeah, because
I have not
so
heard
many of those episodes are like part 10 of the same day. You're just like, it keeps on going. So, I mean, I guess you could argue with
And
Days
they're
of
13
Future Past.
episode seasons too. They were not long seasons. Like Batman the Animated Series had a season that was like 60 episodes. X-Men had 13 episode seasons, and once they started getting to like season 3 and 4, a third of each episode would be clips from previous episodes reintegrated into the show, because they were running out of a lot of money, because Marvel didn't know how to make money off of the Fox Kids contracts they had.
We had the writers of that show, Eric and Julia Lewald, on last year. You know what, folks? That's been a member thing for a year, because I told you guys I wanted to bring you cool stuff. I think I'm going to go ahead and release that to everybody now, because we're going to bring you guys.
News.
Well, I'm figuring X-Men's topical, and you guys are getting the Larry Bundy stuff. So it's another creator spotlight interview. And, it's time to give you guys this one. So everybody that's a, subscriber to the channel, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Our pal Enrique says, Hail High Council. Jeff, there's a new documentary about Back to the Future on Max. I haven't watched it yet. Well, I have to watch it too, buddy. When you do, give me a call. What if I bought Wokebusters on Indiegogo? Thanks for asking this. This way I can address it directly, and we don't have to answer this question a bunch. If you backed on Indiegogo, you'll get your book directly to you. You'll get a first edition book, which means you get a special little sticker and an autographed copy for your patients and for backing it early. Now, also, too, if you backed it over there and you got Slime, if you so chose to get it, you got your free Wokebusters pin and postcard, which was sent to you directly, and you have shirts and I think posters. I have to check the list. But either way, that stuff's gone out to you guys. But no matter what, if you backed it on there, you'll get all your stuff. As soon as we just get it in, we'll put it in, put on the stuff. I'll sign them and send them out directly. So you're set. There's really nothing else to say besides it'll still be there. Make sure your addresses are up to date, because I have received returns in the past and people don't respond to stuff. So that's been a problem, but that's, something that we can address early. So just everybody update your address and you'll be good to go. There'll be, all I ask of you guys is let me know when you get them, share it on social media, and let me know what you think of the book when it arrives. You'll probably be the first ones to get it too. So there you go. Thanks, Enrique. And then finally, number 55. Well, let's see. In honor of WrestleMania.
Yeah, brother.
Breathless.
That
Okay.
that went on longer than I remember it.
Yeah, you got to listen to the Macho Man one because
Oh,
it's like
gosh.
all of that, and then he's like, "I've reached the boiling point," and then it just ends. It's amazing, like everything the Macho Man did. And then finally, thank you to our friend I Drink Therefore I Am for your very generous super chat. Y'all are in my ear as I reread one of my favorite books, Neuromancer, the way William Gibson captures the sleaze, violence, and craziness of future tech. A must read. And one Jamaram, please. Anyone here on the panel read Neuromancer by William Gibson?
Back
I
in
have
college,
not heard
yeah.
of it, actually. Not familiar with it.
I am up to date on it. I have not read it though.
Okay.
I
Right on.
strongly recommend it. It's like the proto cyberpunk to a degree.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, check it
That
out.
that might actually be worth taking a look at.
It is a
because-
text. It's not a comic book, although I do think someone was trying to adapt it like 10 years ago. But I think it's also being adapted into TV series soon.
Interesting. Okay.
I just hope it's the right people that are adapting it because it's pretty cool.
Interesting.
I'm hoping one day, because I like cyberpunk and that noir that comes with Blade Runner and that. I would like to one day get like a higher octane cyberpunk type of thriller. Like Johnny Mnemonic was weird, and it was also 1995. But I find
may
a
or
lot of
may
these
not
like,
be writing something akin to exactly that right now.
oh, okay. Well, all I'm saying is if it's going to be out there in the future, I would like to see that setting, but an exciting story, because I don't always like that cyberpunk. Some of the themes discussed, like controversial take. While I like the movie Blade Runner, I don't love it because I don't care about the premise of what does it mean to be human and all of the stuff with robots trying to be. I hate that trope, like across the board. There are Star Trek episodes that talk about it. Twilight Zone
Everything in
episodes that talk
science
about it.
fiction and science fiction adjacent is done.
And I hate it, man. Like, and I don't want to sound ignorant and brush stuff off, but that's why I like the world of Blade Runner, and I like some parts of it, but I just like Roy's speech doesn't mean anything to me. It's a tiresome thing, I guess. So beautiful artistry. I'm hoping that whatever you're making, man, scratches that itch of high intensity. If not,
I hope so too.
Well, when they adapt it into a movie, I'm sure they'll do it that way. So you're set.
I'll do my best.
Let's get a Jamaram in here and let's give the audience a show. Tonight, folks, hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you enjoy this content. And so more people can join the chat and hang out with you guys each and every week as we go to 200K, 500K, a million and more. I want the gold play button. So folks, help us get that gold play button. Jamaram!
Let's do it.
Yeah. So Script, I am glad you're here each and every week, but as someone who has written a lot of work and as someone who has enjoyed DC Comics, I don't know if I've ever asked you your take on Joker, but just briefly, what I want to know from you is, did you enjoy Joker enough to want the sequel that we're going to get at the end of this year?
I didn't want a sequel to it, although I did enjoy it. Even though when I first heard it pitched, and before I got my hands on the script, I thought it felt like a very pointless kind of cash grabby film. Then when I read the screenplay, I was like, wow, this is actually quite nuanced, far more than you'd ever give it credit for. And I saw that it was pulling way more from Kings of Comedy than it ever was from Taxi Driver. But I understood what was going on here. And I thought, okay, that's fine. The script was a little bit better because it was a little bit more definitive in how Arthur Fleck's psychoses was breaking down. And I thought, okay, it was good one-off. And then, Hollywood did the dumb Hollywood things. And they said, yeah, well, we spent, around $50-60 million, made $1 billion at the box office without China.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. And, I don't begrudge Todd Phillips from basically getting free work, essentially, because it's hard enough to get a movie made. But if they come to you and say, hey, can you do a sequel? You'd be foolish to say no, especially if you want to keep working again. So I do think that this one is inventive. I'm really hoping that Todd Phillips and his team can bring a good movie. Keep in mind, this is modeled after a musical, so musicals typically have at least 15 musical numbers in them. So you're going to get a lot of them. And I think it was a smart choice to get someone like Lady Gaga who can actually sing.
She can.
The other stuff that she does, immaterial right now. It's like you just need, if you're going to get someone in a musical, get someone that sings. Don't do what's her name from Harry Potter, Emma Thompson, or
Hermione
lady?
Granger.
Yeah.
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson. Thank you.
Yeah.
She can't sing. Neither could.
The auto tune couldn't save it either. And
Yeah. Neither could Russell Crowe. There's a lot of. I remember with also getting nightmares from the movie of Les Miserables. Everybody in that movie could not sing.
I thought Hugh Jackman was in that.
Was he? I forgot.
Wasn't he?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was in that.
Okay, so then he's the one that could.
Because I was going to say, Hugh Jackman can sing. Like, the dude can actually sing. He's one of those few modern actors that can do all three. He can sing, he can act, and he can dance. There aren't many of those left.
Well, that just has to do with the fact that for some strange reason, there's a lot of decent actors out there that cannot hold a note due to whatever vocal limitations they have. Or you have certain singing coaches that are like, we're only going to give you the tenor, falsetto, and baritone. And if your voice doesn't fall within one of those, we're not even going to train you. Because I remember seeing that at Randolph Academy to a couple of my friends.
Well, as somebody
Randolph
who's actually
will deny it like egregiously, but like no,
I've done choir, I've done choir, I've done barbershop, and I've also been classically trained briefly as well by an opera singer. So they're just doing tenor, bass, baritone, blah blah blah. Like there's subcategories within those that, like, if you have a very specific range, you might fall into that, and it's kind of sad that people would just get thrown away. It's like, okay, maybe you don't have the greatest range in the world, but if you're given a piece of music that is within your range and you can kill it, you can still sing. You can't exactly go way up here or way down here. You just have to operate in your space. And that's fine. That's no different than writers who can do something really fantastic in comedy or really fantastic in horror or really fantastic in whatever other genre, but they're not great in other genres. It's fine. You can still write, but you operate in your space. There's nothing wrong
to
with
your
that.
strengths. The thing is, like, you're always supposed to reach outside and build up your skills. But yes, you operate with your strengths, you build your foundation, and then you expand out that way. What's been horrible in the last, at least, when were they denied? Was that 2017? Yeah. So the last 7 years or so is that you've actually had people with potential being pushed away saying, listen, if you can't hit the note now, you're never going to hit it. And it's like, well, that's not true. I know people who got into singing when they were in their 40s.
No, you just have to exercise your vocal cords. It's like any other part of your body.
It's about finding your voice and then training it to work in that area. You're not exercising your vocal cords. Speaking is exercising your vocal cords. It's more nuanced than that. It's basically, oh, here's the technique. Here's how you recognize notes. Here's how you recognize how your voice hits those notes, because you don't hear your voice the same way other people do. You hear it from the inside, from the sound inside your head. Other people hear it slightly different than that, which is why so many people cannot immediately recognize their own voice when they hear it back to them from a recording. So there's all those techniques. But idea is, if you go in there and you're a falsetto and you have trouble hitting those high notes, that requires practice and figuring out, well, what is your range as a falsetto, and how can we get you to those high notes? And if we can't, how do we allow you hit a note similar to that to reach that point on music? And it's really, really tough to do that when you don't have a teacher that's willing to put in the effort to help you get there. They're basically saying, like, if you don't have it by the time you get to me, I'm not teaching you. And that's a terrible mentality, because it's basically saying, like, you're coming there for basically rehearsals as opposed to actually studying and learning and developing.
Mm-hmm. I'll say a falsetto isn't something you are, it's something that you have. Falsetto is something you access.
It's something to also achieve. I mean, it's not easy to hit those.
No, not everybody knows how, but it's part of the vocal range that you learn how to access. It's not like it's not like saying I'm a bass, or because that's when I sing, which I personally am not a bass, but it's like saying, okay, I'm a bass, so when I sing, my range falls within here, right? There's no, I'm a falsetto, so I only operate up in here. That's not a thing.
Right.
I'm a banana. I don't even know, dude.
I
played
have
the
a
piano.
rock.
I never sang for shit. Somebody in the chat's like, do I look like a BG to you? Yes. Maybe you look just like Barry Gibb. I
The
think he's the only
BGs are
living one, so.
fantastic, and I will never hear slander against them.
Well, the best joke from Wayne's World is Led Zeppelin didn't write tunes everyone liked. They left that to the Bee Gees, and that makes me laugh every time I watch that movie.
That's good. That's good.
It's so that's the trope I miss from '90s flicks, where they're like really philosophical about music.
Yeah.
Because you know, people are like that, but it's just, I don't know. In '90s films, like you had a ton of movies that were like that. People got really deep into it, and I guess there's just not music to get philosophical about anymore. Like, you know, what's her face did a country album. Good for her. I don't care. But the musical conversation that we had around this movie is very interesting because I can't wait for like geekdom to debate about a musical. That's never really well, hold on, it has. We've had what's the one with Captain Hammer? The Hammer is my penis. Joss Whedon, fucking Dr. Horrible
Dr. Horrible sing along.
Wow, that's
from like the writer strike.
I was in No, was that
you were in college when that came out?
Was I in college?
I
feel like I was in high school when that came out.
We're the same age, dude.
Was it 08?
Yeah, it was during the writer strike. Dr. Horrible's sing along blog or vlog or whatever it was. Yeah,
I feel old either way.
I mean,
08, man.
Does your
yeah, to your point, people aren't but my back sometimes hurts when I roll out of bed. Sometimes my knees and ankles too. But to your point, you're right. Like this general sphere in which we operate, musicals aren't usually something that we associate with them. Like nobody over here is talking about Greatest Showman or Wicked, and I'm not talking about like the upcoming movie. I'm talking about like the actual Broadway musical, or I don't want to bring up Rent because I actually don't like Rent at all. But like say Damn Yankees or like, you know, whatever. Nobody's talking about Phantom of the Opera over here. So
I've never talked about anything on Broadway besides, oh man, I missed the Beetlejuice play because it's Beetlejuice. Or
okay,
oh man, if Back to the Future comes, I'm gonna see. You know, there really wasn't much. Okay, it has the stupidity of the whole slowed down, one note, sing a song that's. I hate that. I hate that trope. I want to throw my fucking popcorn at the screen every time I hear it. Like, just stop, Hollywood. Okay, I get it, but just play Deo. Just play the song we all know. We don't need some ridiculous reinterpretation that like 8 people are going to be like, this is brilliant. No, just like stick with the normal fucking song and I'll be happy. I'll be happier to spend the money because I know you're going like, you got to remember too, the emotion that you're trying to capture isn't just the actor, isn't just the director, isn't just the cinematographer or the, you know, that you got to have the sound element. Like they tell you, the sound's important. If you're making a movie and your sound sounds professional, people will think your movie is a higher quality production. So like, you know, if you want to hit those emotional chords, you want to really play our fucking heartstrings, play the old songs. Other than that, I thought it was cool to see Michael Keaton. I mean, Beetlejuice looks like Beetlejuice. The voice sounds good. He was not the problem of The Flash. You know, The Flash had so many problems. Michael Keaton was the best part of a terrible film, and he still couldn't save it.
Oh, no.
I don't think
nobody could have saved that movie.
I don't think that'll be the case with this new Beetlejuice film. I think this new movie is going to be a surprising hit, like with a lot of people in terms of like financial. I don't know what people hold sacred in the Beetlejuice lore because I'm going to be real. Okay, so this is going to be fun for me because so when we talk about the movies the way we do, you know, we're in the culture of the films, like Star Wars, you know, I know the production, I know this stuff. So when these movies really shit the bed or when these movies really ruin a franchise, like I feel it, I know it. Beetlejuice has this like iconic status for one movie and a cartoon. There's no Beetlejuice universe. There's really not Beetlejuice lore. Half the people out there don't even realize that Beetlejuice, the character, was much different and much darker and more demonic. Like, that's the interesting part that never got made. And also, too, we all forget that the star of Beetlejuice isn't Winona Ryder or Michael Keaton. It's Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. Like, the Maitlands are the characters of Beetlejuice. So,
yeah,
I don't know what they're like. I'm just playing Nostradamus here in terms of people being offended or outraged or something, but like, what? Beetlejuice doesn't have a lore, is what I guess I'm trying to get at. Like, there's the story of the film, and that's it. There's the cartoon, but is that canon? Who knows? He's a good guy. He goes by BJ. It's kind of weird. Like,
I
that's it.
watched it a little bit as a kid. It was whatever.
I watched it every day because I love Beetlejuice. I got one of these freaky whatever Toonie Terrors up on the wall. Yeah, I got the Sideshow doll pre-ordered. It's way more than I need to spend on a Beetlejuice collectible, but it's the last one I'll ever get. So I fucking love Beetlejuice, man. I'm glad you asked me about that movie. I will see it day one.
I'm curious. I think
Yeah.
it's a smart choice picking what's her face? She was in Wednesday.
Jenna Ortega.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of her.
I think she's a good choice though for the visual tone of the film. Like, I think that if as long as the script isn't ass, I think that there could be something really solid there. I'm curious. I'll see it. I enjoy the first movie. I'm not like some massive Beetlejuice fan, but I like the movie.
But
Beetlejuice, I'm hesitant with because the screenplay is written by Al Gough and Miles Miller, who, yes, they wrote Wednesday recently, but they're the reason we got Smallville.
Well, they're the
And
reason we got just modern CW.
Yeah, they were kind of the architects on that. Like, I don't think we have Larry Wilson or Warren Scarron or Michael McDowell, who wrote the original Beetlejuice, participating in this one.
Well, great.
And those are, and that original one was brilliant because, I mean, it's one of the few movies, and this is one of the movies I point to whenever I get a dumb producer saying, well, why is the movie titled this and not about the main characters? Like, Beetlejuice is not a movie about Beetlejuice. It's about the Dietzes and what's going on. And,
Beetlejuice is the thing that happens to them.
It's
just like the Legend of Zelda isn't actually
about Zelda,
yeah,
or
it's
the story
about
of Helen
the journey
of Troy
of Link.
is not about Helen of Troy. Like, there's
about
things,
Achilles.
Yeah, there's other things going on with it, but
so
that's what
Lucasfilm, you don't have to name everything about the titular character. Just that's free notes right there.
Well, that's just that comes to the fact that they're also lazy and
they're
unqualified.
Creativity.
And a recent Hollywood Reporter article is showing how they're not actually getting as much work. Well, I mean, the former CW writers are complaining to the Hollywood Reporter that they're not getting picked up for their shows or staffed in rooms, and that's because
the CW never was profitable in its entire existence. Why the hell would they get work?
Well, first of all, CW well, hold on. The CW is now officially gone.
Yeah.
And they revealed that the CW was essentially your floodgates for all your ideological, terrible writers that entered into Hollywood. So now that that's gone, they're now being exercised out through the merit system. And they're complaining. And I'm like laughing over here saying, thank you, finally. Get rid of them. They're terrible. They never did anything. You had one writer she is 34, or sorry, she's 36 now, and she got into the industry at 32. And if she had been writing prior to that, before she got hired to be an assistant on Legends of Tomorrow, that means she was absolutely terrible. And the only reason she got that show is for all the wrong reasons. And she's complaining like, I'm going to have to go back to bartending. Woman, you never should have left because you did not have the skills to write a television show, despite what a person like Greg Berlanti, who was all he was doing, because he's one of the other architects who's a disciple of essentially Alfred Goh and Miles Miller, to bring it back to Beetlejuice. What he was doing is he was bringing in people like him of, the non-straight white male persuasion into these shows, giving them opportunities. And instead of acknowledging when they failed, held their hands and carried them all the way to the end and basically inflated their egos, which is already inflated enough when you're working in Hollywood. And now the reality has hit them and they're complaining, and they're going to taint the argument that's going on in Hollywood right now, which is, we are purging you. If you want to survive in this industry, get better. And they're saying no. And they're going to try and frame it like, oh, the writer's strike ruined them. No, the writer's strike saved writing in Hollywood, because it prevents these people from getting work, because if they can't bring in money to the things that they write, they are not valuable. They are not worth being in this industry or being supported by the media.
The merit system is how everything should be operating, but unfortunately Hollywood has not operated that way for a very long time. But it's nice
Almost
when we
never.
see, it's nice when we see little shades of it. And the sad part is you don't even have, and I'm gonna be able to tie a nice little bow on this. You don't even have to be like some incredibly talented writer writing, things that make people come away from your TV show or your movie with, existential questions about life and the universe. And they've got all these different emotions happening. No, you just have to be a serviceable writer that can write something that people enjoy and are willing to spend money on. Case in point, Godzilla X Kong. That does not have the most spectacular story in the world. It has a very simple story, a story that works, a story that you can follow. You know where you are in the plot at any given moment, which is nice. The same can't be said for some of the more recent Marvel films because they don't know where they are, where they were, or where they're going at any given time. But the story is simplistic, but it does what it's supposed to do, which is service the experience, service the entertainment that's being provided on screen for audience enjoyment. And that's why the movie is doing bank right now, because it's just a fun time at the theaters. It's not a mind-bending story. Godzilla minus one, a better story. If we're talking about like looking at something from a critical perspective of like something a little deeper, we're looking into some deeper themes. Godzilla minus one is a better story. But as much as I love that movie, and I'd give that movie at least a 9 out of 10, I had more fun with Godzilla X Kong. And part of that might be because I prefer the more zany later Showa era Godzilla films that are him fighting some of the other monsters and things get a little nuts, a little crazier rather than like the earlier black and white stuff. And I like both. My dad and I had a fantastic time seeing Godzilla minus one, but I have a feeling that my dad would agree with me if I'd had the chance to go to see Godzilla X Kong in theaters with him. That like just a legit fun time, unadulterated fun, crazy stuff happening on screen. It looks good, it feels good to watch, and there's a story that at least makes sense. I don't need something mind bending with everything. It doesn't need to be that. I don't need mind bending stories with superhero films, with monster films. I'll go watch films that have mind bending stories. That's fine. But just, I don't know, be at least talented enough to where you can write a serviceable story that
I
can
think
make money.
Well, I think to bounce off that, I don't think superhero stories necessarily need like simplicity. I think they need universality. Like the first Avengers works because it has some of these like, how to describe it. When you watch it, you feel like you're watching something classic, something that would work in any era, no matter what it is, no matter what the genre is, because they just get these epic, humanity stories. An alien invasion in stories is not a new thing.
Yeah,
Avengers learned how to tie those together.
Not every superhero film needs to be Winter Soldier. Let me say that.
No, but you do need that more times than you would realize, because you always have to keep a through line of serious note. And so at least in my eyes,
I don't disagree.
If I was going to map out like my own MCU, every franchise would have the serious one. And that includes like Guardians has the serious one. 2 is the darker one of the 3, and it really hits on those things, and you're like, oh shit. And so I think you need to always maintain that, because you can tug on the heartstrings once, maybe twice, before people take a deeper look. Like I didn't watch E.T. until I was 35, aka like a month ago. I saw E.T. for the first time. My friend, she was crying. Kids cried in the 80s. I'm watching it now and I'm just like, okay, like I have no emotion. But E.T. has other good filmmaking qualities about it. If it was just all emotion or just all, baseless action, I would that movie would just suck. Like I didn't love it, but like I can't shit on it because it is a well-made movie that has a lot of heart going into it. That being said, I think you always need to I'm not saying hold the feet to the fire, but everything should pass the sniff test. I think Godzilla versus Kong passes a sniff test because it is not a convoluted story. It's a very basic, like, hey, we don't need to talk for 40% or maybe 60% of this
The
movie.
movie knows what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
it's the safer route of a simple plot with simple characters, because Kong and Godzilla are not complex, even though they try to make some of their relationships, nonverbal relationships, mind you, complex. They realize they know what they're doing, which is it's not about that. Then you take something like Godzilla -1, simple story, but has really complex human characters, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where it's at. Is the bad writers create complex stories with simple characters, and the great writers create simple characters with simple stories with complex characters. And that's how you kind of nail it every time, because you're not there for the plot. You're there for the characters and how they react to the plot. And if the characters aren't reacting to the plot, if the plot is dragging them and we don't understand why, then we are not as invested into the story. And that's how you have to keep things really really disciplined and simple for that. And TV keeps on following, at least in the last 10 years, the peak TV, as some terrible hacks call it, ended up having very simple stories
do
with
you
really
really feel?
complex, really complex plots, where it's like, oh, this guy is doing this thing. Well, we got to stop him. Yeah, no crap. Well, can you show us them doing the thing? No, we don't have it in the budget. So we have to tell you that he's doing the thing. So we're being told this character's bad. We haven't seen them do anything bad. We're supposed to believe you that they're doing something bad, but instead of actually getting any of that, what we have is basically two characters reiterating that over and over again, episode over episode, in static scenes. And it's like, well, where you're just having more fun with how you move the camera than how you actually are like trying to get character going across, because you don't have complex characters. That's just the simple formula of storytelling. So many people, like especially new time writers, they come and be like, oh, I've got this huge elaborate plot about conspiracy and subterfuge and everything. It's like, nobody cares. The only way, it's serious, nobody
Well, you
cares.
have to make them care about the characters that subterfuge is happening around or to,
No,
in
not
order for
even
them
that.
to care
It's-
about the
if you-
story.
No, if you cannot tell a simple ABC story, you have no business in Hollywood. That's it. They don't care if you can want to have an A, B, C, D that goes all the way to Z. They're like, if you can't do the first three, there's no way in hell you're doing up to 26. So just tell me the first three. And if you can get the first three, it's like, okay, now your characters suck. Make the characters fun. Do the first three. If you can do that, good. All right, we'll give you one more letter. Good. Oh, you won. You did. You did that well. Great. You have another letter. Oh, you failed? Go back to the previous letter. Get more practice doing that well. Then earn yourself up to the next letter. You have so many people trying to fly before they even realize they don't have wings, and that's where we get into, gosh, the that Bros movie that was 50 million that nobody cared about, with a massively complex plot and terrible characters. That was for a niche audience.
Movie that nobody went and see.
That, yeah, nobody went and saw.
Nobody went to see that.
Then you have something that was a third the cost and incredibly simple, so simple that it was almost like painful to watch. And that was Anyone But You, but it was a romantic comedy, and the characters were
That was the one
actually
with Glenn
one
Powell,
tier.
right?
Yeah, the characters were one tier above simple, so they weren't entirely complex, but they were enough that you could actually buy into it.
They
It
were
was such a
like
simple plot of,
super
these two are going to be
archetypical
falling in
characters.
love. Yes, exactly.
They were like, all right, let's take a character archetype. All right, now let's move the dial like 1/10 away from that. And that's these characters.
yes.
Yeah.
And you know
that's
what?
fine.
It worked, and audiences
did-
showed up to it.
I was going to say, didn't it actually do fairly well?
Yes, because at least they managed to make the characters one tier above simple, and that was it. And again, they leaned into the comedy, but you knew going into that movie right away, those two are going to end up together.
Oh yeah, no,
And you had
you
no
can tell
problems
that
with
from
it.
the trailer. It's like, oh, okay, I know how this movie ends, basically.
And then, then you also go back to, say, the most classic of them all, When Harry Met Sally, where before they even filmed the last set of pages on that script, those two were not going to get together because Rob Reiner wanted to tell a story that was different, but then he fell in love making that movie with someone, and he decided, you know what, I can't rob the audience of something that they're expecting to happen, because that's just evil.
Yeah.
And that's why
they would
got
actually
together at the end.
that movie would have been clipped at the knees. Because the
The
first
movie
batch
would
of
not have
people that
been the
went to
movie
see
if
it
they didn't get together. Yeah.
Well, the first batch of people, because so many of these films these days, and especially back then, actually even more so, because before the internet was far more prevalent, certainly before social media, everything was word of mouth, right? Like you go to see a movie in the theaters because you see the trailer and it interests you, or you hear about it and the premise interests you, or it's got an actor or actress in it that you like, and you enjoy it, you go tell your friends, you go tell your family, and then hopefully they enjoy it as well, and then they go tell friends, and they tell other family, and
And so
that's how
on,
things
so
wind
on.
up doing well. And but the opposite is also true. So if that first batch of people that go to see it opening weekend come away super disappointed, oh, I didn't even freaking get together after all this bullshit, like, they would have told their family and friends that and been like, it's not worth your time. You're going to have all this buildup, all this tension, and then you're going to come away disappointed and mad. You're going to be like, wow, it sounds like a midlife crisis individual who had never actually fallen in love or been in a successful relationship wrote this. And people will be, I don't want that. I don't want to see that. And that's
So
how other movies do well.
now, speaking of other movies, there's another movie on the screen right here that we've been talking around for a moment or two.
I guess that speaks to how little interest I have in a sequel to
Well,
Joker.
I just want to really put the bow on it is like this. I enjoyed Joker all those
I thought
years.
it was fantastic.
Hey, no problem. No, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. It beat The Rise of Skywalker. It was awesome in terms of like the budget and all that stuff. But the story's over. Like I feel this movie feels self-indulgent, and I haven't even seen a frame of film in motion yet. So
this was a movie that did not need a sequel. I think script hit the nail on the head. It was a cash grab.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, I'm dreading this. Now, if it's amazing, I'm always going to be honest and be like, hey, I enjoyed it, but I can almost like taste the smug on this one. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
Well, I already don't like Joaquin Phoenix much, or Lady Gaga for that matter, though I will still be able to recognize that they're talented individuals. And I liked the first Joker movie. It's not the Joker.
No.
It's a very well done movie centered around somebody with severe mental issues. And I enjoyed the heck out of the movie. It was a very well done, very well put together film, but it doesn't need a sequel. I don't need Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn either. Like, no disrespect to Lady Gaga. I'm not even talking about like any of her social stuff. I don't give a crap about that at this point. I'm so over it.
I don't even know what she's involved with anymore.
But she's a talented vocalist. Like if you hear her actually sing, not the stuff that she's put on like with record labels, that's like the auto-tune stuff, like her actually singing, she has a voice, like a legit voice. Like one of those like, oh wow, she can actually sing. Not like, oh yeah, she can sing. No, actually sing. This is just a movie that doesn't need to be made. But I will relent to what Jeff said. And I'm in the same camp. If it surprises me and it's actually good, then it's actually good. You know, I try to look at things, and I think Jeff's the same way, and I think Script's the same way. I try to look at things with emotion removed, unless the movie itself is making me feel emotions. And by that I mean the emotions that the story is very deliberately trying to make me feel with the beats that it's executing properly, hopefully, right? I try to look at things in, all right, how is this as a piece of entertainment? Like, does this do its job well? Is this appropriate for the genre? Is it well scripted? Is it well shot? Is the cinematography good? Is the score good? All of that. All of the actual, more or less objective, measurable things you can use when you're critiquing a piece of film. If this winds up being good, it's good. I'll give it that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not a movie I need.
But it's a movie Todd Phillips needs because The Hangover's dead. So,
and you know what? The Hangover was the worst of his comedies. I think Old School was one of the peak ones.
yeah, Old School. I really do like Road Trip a lot.
Oh yeah, he did do Road Trip. I forgot. But yeah,
that's
I
his
think Old
first
School was
one of
far
those.
better. Yeah,
Agreed. You know,
Hangover was okay, except I mean,
I never watched a single one of the Hangover movies, and it's because
you're not missing anything.
Well, it's not my type of movie, really. Like it's not my type of comedy, honestly. Like the drunk, let's get let's have a freaking bender and we don't know what happened. Like that story doesn't interest me. Like I really
They
don't care.
It had fake stakes, and if you'd ever spent more than 24 hours in Vegas, you knew what the ending was immediately.
I will
And
rewatch Rush Hour 1 and 2 50,000 times in a row before I bother watching one of those. I just don't
I
care
but
mean,
not
about
Rush Hour 3. Okay, I get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I mean,
We all skipped Rush Hour 3.
Rush Hour 3's fine. And that's the nicest thing I can say about it. It doesn't have the magic of the first two. The first two are peak comedy for me. Those are my two favorite comedy films that are not Groucho Marx films in film history. Um, so I mean, yeah, Todd Phillips, I like you said, script. I certainly can't knock him for taking the work, for taking the paycheck. As you said, I'm sure it's difficult enough to actually get something actually greenlit and then have it all followed through on, right? To where it actually goes to theaters, goes to print. You actually end up getting a return on it.
Mhm.
That's a difficult enough process as it is. Making a movie or making a TV series is far more difficult than I think a lot of people, certainly in this space, give it credit for. That being said, that doesn't mean this is a movie that needed to happen. But I mean, who knows? Maybe there was far more of a demand for this sequel than we gave it credit for, and it'll make $1 billion as well.
That's the problem with the box office. It's the double-edged sword, because when a movie makes a lot of money, that's the audience saying, we like this.
Yeah.
And you take that as like, okay, if this is what they like, if we give them a variation of this again, ideally with some sort of new aspect to it, so that they
Mhm.
don't feel like they're watching the same thing over and over again, Transformers, hopefully they will show up for it as well.
You're talking about Michael Bay as a
That's a fair
cinematic
model.
genius.
But I would argue that they hurt themselves, because number one, they're never they're spending like $200 million on this second film,
Oh, so this
and
is
most of
costing
that
them
is,
4 times as much as the first one.
yeah, and most of that money is going to the talent. Which, listen, it's
I
not
guess
that
to
they
their credit,
didn't
they
earn
can
it.
demand more because the
They
first
can
one
demand
made
more
so
for that.
much. They have
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
They
To
have
their
that
point,
card.
credit, they quote unquote earned it for a sequel for this type. But at the same time, it's like, now you've just basically stipulated that you cannot make less than $1 billion now.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it's failed. Which, I do know some producers that they kind of do that specifically to basically put an end to a potential franchise that they knew in their heart should not be exceeding the single movie it was. Where they're
Hmm.
like, if we just make the sequel and make it so expensive that it can't make money back, we don't have to worry about this, and we can try and pitch a brand new IP or a one-off or a smaller indie film to work, because this is what producers have been fighting for since 2012, and specifically because Avengers made $1 billion, and every studio's like, we want to do superhero films, and all the executives that were pitching original IP were being essentially said, unless you have a superhero film, I don't want it. And it's like,
That's
well,
the
we don't like that.
unfortunate. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing, and I think that's a because look, I'm a free market capitalist as through and through as they come. So if something makes money, for the most part, it makes sense. That being said, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be wiggle room and space for a lot more things, because not every movie. I hate that notion, and it doesn't surprise me that that would be the thing that happened when Avengers popped off like it did, and justifiably so. All of a sudden, oh well, now everything we need to like go super hard in the paint with the superhero genre. It's like, look, I get it. Avengers made a crap ton of money. I forget what the exact final number was in theaters on its run,
The
but it
first
was,
one,
yeah,
It's like
$1.5 billion.
1.5. Okay. Yeah, I knew it was north of 1.3 at least. But yeah, 1.5. That's not chump change. That's a lot of money. I'm sure any film would be very happy to make that. But the fact of the matter is, not every movie needs to make that kind of money, because in order to be successful, because not every movie needs to have the kind of budget that an MCU film has in order to be successful. I mean,
MCU
I
doesn't need
get
to have the budgets they have.
well,
to be
that
successful.
too. That too for sure. They have an overspending problem, they have for a while. But to circle this back around to Joker, the first Joker, like $50 million for the budget, right? That's
Mhm.
compared to a lot of the other big budget films that we see these days that that's peanuts, right? And then it makes $1 billion. Why? It was a well-marketed film. It was a well-executed film. It was just good all around. It was good as literally everything other than being the thing that it was titled after, as far as I'm concerned. It was good as literally everything but being a Joker film. So it deservedly made a crap ton of money. Um, so you can spend a far more reasonable amount of money and shoot $50 million. I'd love for $50 million to sound reasonable in my bank account.
It does to me.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
Well, yeah,
All
I
right,
mean,
fair
that's the thing. One of the problems is that you have this double-edged sword where you have so many studios that do their own accounting that, a movie can take home $1 billion. And like, if you got residuals on the back end for the gross, they'll try and argue, well, it didn't make any money or whatever you want to stipulate there. So we've had this model for a little over a decade where everyone is getting paid as much as they can up front because they don't want back end deals because of weird Hollywood accounting. Two things have to happen. Number one, if Hollywood wants to start making money again, the first thing they have to do is no longer do the Hollywood accounting. And then the second part they have to do is start allocating their budgets accordingly to the scale of the feature they're actually putting together.
I don't think the Hollywood accounting goes away until they experience their own sort of Great Depression
Well,
that forces their hand to just call things as they are. Like,
the only
by the
studio that's
books,
facing that
not
right now is
cooking the books, by the
Yeah.
books.
Well, the only studio that's actually facing that right now is Disney, because they're the only ones that are reporting that have losses that can be verified independently. All the other studios, they have losses and dips, but their debts are going down where Disney's is actually only going up.
Right.
And
And
the
we
other
can
part
see
too is
that in
those
real
studios
time.
can't and the studios can't abolish their debts because they need those debts for the tax credits that they can get on them. So they have to manage it to a point where it's like, yes, we made a lot of money, but we haven't paid off our debt. So we have to, reinvest that money to accrue more debt, but at the same time use it to pay all their bills. It's a weird thing going on there. I never want to be head of a studio. I would never want to balance that out because you're literally always operating with creditors and other people that invested into you really just nipping at your heels all the time. And being able to sort of keep them at bay while at the same time giving them dividends and all this other stuff while and managing that debt. That's a juggling act that I do not ever want to have to experience.
Yeah, me neither. It's just like I've dreamed about what kind of role would I want if I was going to make a movie, and it wouldn't be that role. I guess I just want to be a producer, but I couldn't imagine like
You'd be good at finding money. You're big and intimidating. So all you have to do is just walk around town with a baseball bat, and be like, "Hey, you want to invest in a movie?"
Yeah, old school, man. I mean, I like The Sopranos. I've watched that show every episode. So yeah, sure.
I want to see. Here's the thing, because I love entertainment. We all love entertainment here. I want to see films start to be good again, and therefore start to do well again. But there be a far wider range in terms of like production, right? I don't need everything to be a gigantic spectacle. Because look, I say this as somebody who is currently singing the praises of Godzilla versus Kong, and that is, or Godzilla X Kong, and that is a VFX spectacle movie. Make no mistake about it. I adore that film, and just like I love all of the MonsterVerse films, just as I loved Godzilla -1. But I also want other movies that are done well to the point where it's like maybe their budget was only, I guess just to use as a comparison, maybe it was only $50 million or even less, right? Something south of 100. In this day and age, it feels like that's reasonable at this point. Something south of $100 million budget, before your marketing, right? And that it's well executed and people are excited to see it, and therefore it does well. Maybe it doesn't make $1 billion, but that's fine. You only spent 50 million on it or 30 million on it, and you made 300-400. You made your money back and then some by a good margin, right? That means you can you can now be like, okay, is this something that is deserving of a follow-up, or do we take this and say, okay, now let's leverage our success here and say, hey, we made this successful, now let's try something else. We have a track record now of making something that's successful. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly like this other thing. We're showing that we know what we're doing, right? So we can have because look, and I'm saying this as somebody who's an action film fan. Like I'm not. I like the horror films that I've watched.
All 4 of them?
Oh, listen, okay,
Fine, 6.
no, that's probably fairly accurate in terms of the classics. In terms of the classics, okay, because I primarily watch like your more paranormal type horror films, like those.
But
those
not
are more my thing.
Paranormal Activity, right?
I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, don't watch anymore. They all suck.
I only saw the first one. I love the Conjuring universe films. I love the actors that are in it, and I like those films quite a lot. But more to my point, I'm an action film guy, and the fantastic thing about the action franchise is you can do things that are like Godzilla X Kong, super VFX heavy spectacle films. But you can also do action films that are far more practical. You can do stuff that's far more grounded. That's where you get your James Bonds. That's where you get your Mission Impossibles, right? I know Mission Impossible has pushed it a little bit in terms of the grounded argument there, but that's fine, right? It's
If
still
there were
less.
more Mission Impossible and less stunt-driven films, yes, you would definitely have that.
I love the entire franchise, regardless. I don't need it to all be like the what was it, the 19s? Was it the 60s or 70s?
60s show, yeah.
Yeah, I don't need it to all be like that. I love all of the films. But I would just like to see a little more diversity in like
You said
thread.
the dirty D word.
I did say the dirty D word, Jeff.
Don't say the dirty D word.
In terms of well, I just did. It's too late. You can't retcon that. In terms of just like the level of production, I don't need everything to be a VFX spectacle. I love in fact, I will give you and I will give Jen and Sylvia, the Saskas, this credit. Because y'all kept pushing me to watch The Thing. Y'all keep pushing me to watch more of the other classics. I had already seen some of the other ones. I'd already seen the first Halloween. I'd already seen the first Nightmare on Elm Street. I'd already seen the first Friday the 13th. And a lot of the old
6.
Watch Black Christmas. That inspired Halloween.
Jump to part 6. You don't understand how my OCD just reacted to that.
I'm just trying to save you like 10 hours of your life because like
I've heard that some of the other ones are bad.
3 is mean-spirited. 2's fun. There's a lot of like nudity and well, yeah, like
is that Season of the Witch?
No, Halloween 3 is Season of the Witch, and Halloween 3 is awesome. If you like the
that's
Twilight Zone,
what I thought you were talking about.
No, Friday the 13th Part 3 is kind of mean-spirited. Like, Jason movies aren't like fun, lighthearted jaunts through Crystal Lake.
I don't know if I would call any of those Carpenter films fun, lighthearted.
You're breaking my heart right now because John Carpenter didn't direct any Friday.
Well, I know he didn't do it. He actually talked a lot of shit about the sequels when he came to my acting class, which was
he's talking about the Halloween sequels from Rob Zombie.
Yeah,
not the Friday the 13th sequels from who the hell Is it? Who directed the third one? I had his name on the top of my tip of my tongue. I know his name. He directed 2 and 3. Fuck. Anyway, watch those movies. But never mind, man. I'm gonna make you a master
I've got a
list.
growing list.
That was
you'll have to make me a list as well.
Thank you.
I have a feeling, Jeff, that if you make me a list, there's going to be a lot of crossover with the list that Jen and Sylvia made for me. So
yeah, because I'm also taking into account you. Like, folks, when I give recommendations, I take into account the audience. I take into account who watches the channel. I mean, I don't recommend literally everything I watch because it's like, are you really going to know or I say it? So, Andrew, what I'm saying to you, man, is like, when I give you a list of horror movies, I'm going to give you specific things based on what I think is your personality. Because, like, I'm not going to show you, Cannibal Holocaust just because it was crazy and they thought the guy actually killed people. Yeah, that's Cannibal Holocaust, right?
Yeah, that is Cannibal Holocaust.
Okay.
You're thinking Cannibal Girls, which is the comedy version.
No, I was thinking of Zombie Holocaust with John. Enter the Dragon, John Thaxton, there we go. I couldn't think of his name for a second. Sorry. Yeah, like, believe me, I have watched way too many schlocky. I watched him as a little kid, though. That's the weird part. Like, I watched these movies way too young. I had a cousin who was older that was like, "Hey, watch whatever you want."
I was
And then we had
7 when I
IFC.
saw Predator 2 and 9 when I saw Alien.
I remember
Predator
when they used to show
2
Predator and Predator 2 on television, and it wasn't really edited much.
No,
just
it was
the-
not
just the
edited.
words.
And my dad didn't know that I was sitting underneath the arm of the sofa watching while he was watching.
So, Andrew in the chat, Dr. Coffin is telling you to watch part 6. And then I just wanted to highlight the intelligence of Chuck E. Cheese in the chat. I like Season of the Witch the best. I have an original poster from the 80s in my home office. Well, Chuck
Wow.
E. Cheese, you are listener of the night. Actually, you're listener of the week. So, folks, congratulate Chuck E. Cheese. I wish I had an original Halloween 3 poster. I should
By the
rectify
best-
that.
By the best, is that including the original? Is that what he's saying there?
That's what Chuck E. Cheese is saying. I put it, if I'm being super generous, I'd say
Because
it's my
that
second
first film
favorite.
was like perfect.
No, I love the first Halloween. It's my favorite horror movie. I can't put Halloween 3 over it, but I might be able to put Halloween 3 over Halloween 2 if I'm really feeling generous. Halloween, when I watch the movie, I go, man, Halloween 3 is great. But
I just
know,
love
it's a lot of fun.
Carpenter's bullshit habits of leaving things open-ended and leave you wondering and full of anxiety. Like, shit, where is he?
Well, he has a way of technically what he does is he introduces tags, and a tag is basically when the main story is complete, but here's this little thing extra that's coming up onto it. He does that in all of his films except for Dark Star, I think. I haven't seen Dark Star in a while though, but that's like his first film. But he knows how to basically tell the contained story and be like, I can leave a little bit of a tease here for you. And he's not doing that so he can get a sequel. He's just doing that because he's trying to show you that this is he's trying to give you the verisimilitude of this world, that it doesn't just end here. Like something else can happen. Two of my favorites that he does this to three are The Thing, Escape from New York, and Big Trouble in Little China. Like the tag ending there with the beast underneath Jack Burton's truck is such a great one. So yeah, like he just has a way with that. And basically you should watch every John Carpenter film.
I agree.
Yes, even Ghost of Mars.
Agreed.
It's funny for all the wrong reasons, but I knew exactly what he was trying to do with that. And I'm like, yeah, I get it.
I feel like I've watched the big 3 of his and I'm like, I'm good.
No, you're not good, because here's the thing. You're going to learn more about yourself as you watch more John Carpenter movies, because the thing Carpenter does that I like to do and that other people do, it's like they honor the shit they watched when they were kids and bring it to a contemporary audience in a way that no one else was. And so they're the ward of their generation moving
They're a
forward.
shepherd.
So the shepherd. Thank you. And so Carpenter does that with a lot of his stuff. Like The Thing literally is a remake that he brings that version and his, something he watched as a child. I just love all of this stuff because he's like, so Spielberg's the director of the 80s, but Carpenter's more interesting to me. He's just got a
Carpenter
wider
is the
variety
creative of the 80s. Like that's the thing. Like Spielberg's creative, but he's a director of the broader film that brings you in. And Carpenter's the type of guy that's like, he appeals to the normal audience, but really gets to the cinephiles. And also he challenges you. Like when you watch In the Mouth of Madness, that will redefine who you are as a human being.
That movie's awesome. You need to watch it, Andrew. Donald Pleasance's
In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah.
I don't
Watch it during
remember
the
if
day.
that one's on the list. Watch it during, I don't like, look, outside of like an extremely well placed jump scare, like there's no build up to it, it just happens. Like you're not gonna get much out of me for the most part.
you are on this one.
So
Yeah,
like you have to like
Lord of Darkness is the one I'm thinking of.
you gotta really sell me on it. Really sell me on it. I gotta see if that's on the list that the Saskas made for me, because they put together a
good stuff too.
fairly thorough list. Though the next one that I'm supposed to watch is Jacob's Ladder.
Oh, with Tim, not Tim Roth. I can't think of his damn name. Tim Robbins.
I have
Call
no
Tim
idea
Robbins.
who's in it. I just know that I'm supposed to watch it, and I
Yeah.
said, okay, yes, ma'am.
Now I'm trying to give you one to add to the list because I feel like you got to do one of theirs and one of my films because
I'm good with
we're
that.
gonna by the end of this year, by this Halloween, you will be a well-watched horror fan. Now, folks, we're putting that out there to the audience right now. If you want to help Andrew become a well-watched horror fan by this Halloween, we have 6 months and 27 days, 28 days even.
Chuck E. Cheese, I've actually seen The Fly, the 86 remake that's got Goldblum in it. I've actually seen that.
That's a good movie.
There's have you seen Cube?
Have I seen Cube?
Oh,
The
you got
Cube?
Cube. No, it's Cube. It's a Canadian early 2000s film. It's a single.
No, for a second I thought I did, but I was confusing it with The Sphere.
No,
which
Sphere,
I have seen.
Sphere, very different.
Yeah,
Cube.
I've seen The Sphere.
Out. That's a suspense thriller with some pretty intense stuff going on there.
Now, if this ever, hold on a second, if this ever showed up on IFC in the early 2000s,
probably would be because it came out in 96, 97.
Yeah, I may have seen this movie because I don't know if I was a weird kid or what, but I just would watch like international shit or independent stuff. Like even when I was younger and didn't really understand it, like I watched shit. If even it was in German, I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll just watch this movie. It seems like an interesting story." It was different than what we had here because I hated Friends and all this other shit. That's all it was on back in the day.
Seinfeld was better.
What was better?
Seinfeld.
I don't even like that show, man. I don't think it's funny at all. Like I'm like a robot. Like when the joke comes up, I go, "Ha, that's the joke. I get that. That's the joke." I don't like that joke, and then I just watch it and I watch it.
Jerry Seinfeld's my favorite comedian of all time. Like outside of removed from that show, like I actually like his stand-up stuff because it.
Please don't tell me you like Ray Romano.
Oh no, I like the actor who played his brother. He's funnier.
From Everybody Loves Raymond. No, he's boring.
His voice just makes me want to vomit. Like I can't stand hearing him talk.
I don't know if I go that far, but he's not funny.
All of those shows in the 90s, like. I grew up in the 90s. Like a lot of you watching, we lived through the 90s together. There was a lot of great. There was a lot of terrible. A lot of the stuff that people look back on wasn't as awesome, like living through it. You're just like, it was on. It was there. You know what I remember about the 90s? A lot of 10, 220 commercials. A lot of like, lowering your rates at 9. That's the thing that people don't understand.
Freedom,
like the world
55.
that's different. Yeah. All of those fucking, I got to wait till the rates go down. Then I'll call California for 3 cents a minute. It's like, what? Like that. And the thing is, folks, those telecom commercials dominated our television ads all the time. Like that's all you saw were those. That's what it was like living through the 90s. Those and shit for movies that you probably would never watch. So I may have seen Cube. I need to watch it because I'm reading about it right now. It's on Tubi, so I don't have an excuse. And it's sci-fi, which, dude, I have been on the biggest sci-fi kick of my life.
I need to give a quick plug because you mentioned Tubi. Coming to Tubi, I believe it's this Friday, is the sequel to Night of the Living Dead.
Oh.
And directed by the Saskas, Festival of the Living Dead.
So I'm going to watch it because I've watched every of the Living Dead movie. Everyone.
Check it out.
I love zombies. Like, so
I like zombies too. I grew up a zombie
zombies.
hunter because I was playing Resident Evil from a time I was probably too young to
I
be
met
playing Resident Evil.
A girl who didn't know what Resident Evil was. Like, she just flat out didn't know what it was. She's like, "What's Resident Evil?" I'm like, "The video game or the movie?" She's like, "What video game? What movie?" And I explained it to her, and she's just like, "Yeah, I don't care." I'm like, "Then why did you even fucking ask?
Like, why are you even talking to me right now? Why are you in my presence? Like, you have no chance of surviving the zombie apocalypse. You're going to be the bait. Like, you don't get it."
Yeah,
I've been training to survive the zombie apocalypse since I was like 10 years old. Oh, my mom isn't watching. She's probably not.
I would just stay at home. Like, I would just, I don't know, board myself in and wait for it to blow over, because it wouldn't be like The Walking Dead, and it wouldn't be like any of these shows where we're all outlaws and badass. It would be a lot like what the pandemic was. Like, that's the zombie movie I want to make. Like, a zombie movie that mirrors just like, we think we're gonna be really cool in the apocalypse, and we're just really boring, and it's the same shit as like we would normally do, just a big Zombieland, essentially. That's what I'd want to make. That's the last unique zombie movie I've seen. Everything else has been derivative or a Walking Dead clone, which I hate The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead was just a soap opera with zombies. Like, I watched the first season of that, and I was like, okay, so that was fine. I didn't, I don't know, I wasn't attached to any of the characters. And all of the interactions that were happening all felt like soap opera interactions. And so I'm like, I'm not a middle-aged female. I don't care about this shit. Like, you can paint zombies onto it, but it's still a soap opera. I'm good. Like, I'm good actually. Not interested. I will actually, and some people might get mad at me for saying this, and that's okay.
I already am mad at you for saying it.
I enjoy doing this. This is pure unadulterated Andrew. I would rather rewatch all of the Mila Jovovich, Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil films than continue on watching Walking Dead.
Well, I mean, so
at
would
least
I,
I'm going to
because
have
it's a
fun
small,
with the retarded action that's happening on the screen.
it's a smaller time commitment.
That too.
I mean, we're talking what? 20 hours a day tops of Resident Evil movies. Dude, a Walking Dead season is like what, 10 and a half hours?
Yeah.
Like, and you're going to have to watch 13 of those. No, I'll take the shorter option. Like, I don't want to try to go on and bitch about The Walking Dead, but just, again, something I lived through. I never saw. It's kind of like if you.
I still need to read the novel for World War Z because I've heard it's really good. I've only seen the movie. I've heard it's way different than the movie and way better than the movie, which tends to be the case a lot of times. Most of the time, actually. But I do actually legitimately like the movie. So I'm really curious to see how much better the novel is, because if I already enjoy the movie, if the novel is like just different but like way better, I'm here for it.
It's vastly not though. Different. It's like a news reporting kind of thing of the events, right?
It's a recount of what already happened. Like, you're getting a whole bunch of different perspectives of the event itself,
rather than it being all told more or less through the eyes of one character.
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's not,
that wouldn't have worked really well for a movie.
It's a movie. It's a book about the aftermath of it and trying to figure out how it all came to be. Max Brooks, who's the son of Mel Brooks, wrote it. It's doesn't really have much humor to it because it's not intended to be, and it's actually the first book that got Max Brooks involved in basically think tanks with the Pentagon, because he actually landed on some certain concepts and ideas that the military would be generating simulations for. And he,
I don't like that at all. I don't like when the government says, "Hey, come here."
Well, I'll put it to you this way. As well funded as the Pentagon is, and as dedicated as a lot of the people that volunteer for service are, and I commend them for that, they're very too reliant on the equipment they have and not so much on the training, despite some of the vigorous training that they go through. One of the biggest
it's not the same equipment that they use to run their websites.
No, but one of the attitudes that they use in some of the, like, especially in the Marines, is they try to break them, like, physically, to try and make them better.
Yeah,
but they don't.
I've had friends and family member that were Marines. Yeah,
they do not do proper rest between that. So if you're a Marine that broke your leg during training, as soon as it gets good enough to heal and you go into the physical therapy stuff, they put you back into it again, which they're strong enough to endure, but that eventually has further terrible repercussions after they finish their time serving as a soldier. Ironically, Australia and Canada has the best trained, but the worst equipped. So much so that terrorist organizations, when they find out they're facing off against a unit from Australia or Canada, run and hide. and I'm like, that was shocking, because neither of those countries have any of the cool toys that the US has. And you want them to, because, and the other part too is you also want the training that those two countries have to be to also include the United States, because they have such a huge investment into that. You think they should. And the sad reality is like some of those soldiers who are volunteering their lives are getting shafted on the training that they need. And it's horrifying, especially considering how good the ones that they can do, like the SEAL Team 6 teams, some of those task forces that they have, and those infiltrators and those hostage rescuers, they're fantastic. But the sad reality is that some of those terrorist groups would rather go toe-to-toe with them than with some of the other countries that are not as well equipped, but have to do more with less, because they're like, if they can actually, achieve something with antiquated technology, they're terrified of what they could do if they get their hands on the real stuff.
Now I want to watch a zombie movie where it's just like the Canadian and Australian special forces that are saving the planet just because of the training. It could have been a good like Romero style zombie movie, because it could have been a commentary on technology, because all the zombie movies back in the day had something to say about everything. So,
well, we figured this out in the First World War during the chlorine bombs that the Germans used. It drove a lot of all other armies back, but the Canadians just peed in a handkerchief and put it over their mouth to filter out the chlorine bomb, and then sauntered on through and scared the bejesus out of the Germans from that.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just what it was. Like, again, when you don't have much, you got to make do with what you got. You got to MacGyver it. And that's kind of just what scares your enemy. If you realize, like, hey man, oh yeah, they've got a tank, that's great. Oh, look at them, they have a little boat. Oh, look at all those soldiers come in. They have AK-47s from the 1970s that haven't been updated or upgraded since. Oh my God, they are perfect shots. Oh my God, they're not backing down. Oh my God, we're losing our numbers. Like, that's the mentality you kind of want. So, and the thing is, like, I think I've met a lot of great U.S. soldiers that come up to Canada to do the training when they get the permission, because we have this treaty between our countries, which is pretty awesome. And they're just like, wait, you want us to do what? And like, yeah. And they're gung ho for it. And when they nail it, they get cheers. And it's awesome when they do. And almost every time they do, because we have a really, really good way of training people.
That's cool. I had no clue about any of this. I feel
well,
like
Max Brooks did a participation in what happens if the United States gets a wickedly corrupt government, decides to invade Mexico and Canada. And they said, based on the current training style right now, they would be able to make significant grounds into Canada, but as soon as the first winter hit, they would actually lose ground. Because, and this is actually true, because we have the models from their times in Afghanistan. The United States soldiers are not trained for terrible weather conditions in the same levels that other countries train. So, and that's why they've had such a problem with like desert heat or with extreme winters. And that's why they also had the same results if they said, oh, if we decide to invade Russia, could we take it? It's like, no. The only thing you could do is just nuke the hell out of it.
No, we'd get wrecked just like the Russian, or just like the Germans did.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about what this would look like in a movie. So sorry.
Dude, like the amount of stories that you could explore just on traditional like skirmishes across different nations during different periods of the year. Oh, you get so much fun playing it in your head, and so many fun stories you could do, things that you would never like realize beforehand. And then who knows, maybe you get a call from the Pentagon. Hey, can you help us upgrade our training regiment and scenario and board game scenario?
Sure, here's my graphic novel. Let me tell you about what I did here.
Yeah.
What a fucking world, man. So yeah, Andrew, you got to read that book as well. Is there anything else you guys want to say about Andrew's lack of horror films, or
get on it, Andrew? Come on.
I have never once in my life claimed to be a horror guy.
Well, once you get through the
Saskas appreciate that I'm a horror normie, because that means if they recommend a film to me, that I'm just looking at it as just somebody who's just seeking entertainment. I'm not looking at it from the eyes of some horror snob or horror snob wannabe.
Horror snobs aren't as interesting as they think they are. Like, some film snobs have interesting takes, and you're like, oh, I want to listen to that. A lot of them like buy into the shittiness and treat it as high art, and I get it. That's part of the appeal to you, but it just doesn't work for me. It's like when people try to argue that VHS is the superior format because it's what you grew up with. It's like, that's not really a valid argument. It's just
it actually doesn't work that way. That's not real life.
Should be Oscar contenders because of all the gore and crazy extreme things that they do in their movies, which Andrew, when you are done your horror movie list, you have to then watch a bunch of the trauma stuff and get a barf bag nearby. Because
I'm
they
good.
I mean,
Actually.
they're not that bad. Just don't eat like spaghetti or anything
it's
like
not
that.
even the gore. It's just other things that they do that just trigger your gag reflex. But they're also very funny films. That's the other part too. It's like,
and they're independent darlings. Look what Lloyd Kaufman built. Something.
He built something that it works. I mean, they have a lot of fun and they have a model that works the way Hollywood likes to say they work, but doesn't. And that is like, keep everybody safe, don't take any unnecessary risks, tell a fun story, realize that you're doing something very few are able to achieve.
Sorry, Darth Vader with my favorite comment. VHS wasn't even as good as Betamax.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the same argument could have been made with HD DVD versus Blu-ray. Blu-ray
HD had better
right?
storage capacity, but Blu-ray could do more without being compressed. Like was the basics of it. Like,
it wasn't the HD DVD. Did it even do 1080p? Was it 1080i? Okay.
No, it was 1080i. And
1080i.
Blu-ray was 1080p.
Yeah.
And the 1080i allowed it. Like, I remember people buying television series on HD DVD because it was half the discs that it was on Blu-ray. And that was,
I mean, that's fair.
I remember people buying the HD DVD player for the Xbox 360.
Same.
Yeah.
I wanted it, but I never pulled the trigger.
Neither did I.
People doing that when I was working back at Game Crazy, owned by
Blockbuster or Hollywood Video. Oh
yeah.
Yep.
So Movie Gallery was the parent company that owned Hollywood Video and Game Crazy.
Because I used to go to Game Crazy through high school because I would go rent shitty videotapes because that's the only thing you get wrestling on, and then I'd rent a new game. Good times. Yeah, I never had late fees on that one, but my Blockbuster, I was a kid at Blockbuster. My mom, never mind. Anyway, long story short, yeah, Blu-rays and HD DVDs, folks. I don't know what to say about the format wars. Right now, I guess people are just collecting digital and physical. And if you're a collector and you want to collect physical, go to your local Walmarts because, folks, right now, 4K steelbooks are showing up in the $5 bin at Walmart. Films like Total Recall that I paid full price for are $5. So, don't go resell them. Just go buy yourself a copy and build your film collection. See, that's the thing.
There's a super Walmart like 15 minutes away. I might
go
have to check that out.
Because here's the thing, folks. $5 is nothing. We live in an era where $5 is like you get 3 slices of bacon at your local restaurant.
I can't get a Starbucks for $5.
That is a first world problem, and I understand your pain. But all I was gonna say is you can sacrifice a $5 bill and the 37 cents for tax or whatever it would be, depending on where you live. Long story short, go buy these movies on a blind buy. It's $5. You can trade it in for more than $5, honestly, if you wanted to do that way. But no, if you see some of these classics out there, these classics are classic for a reason. For $5, jump in. It would cost the same to rent the movie. So, that's my way of saying go watch more movies. Go watch more classics. Be on the lookout for good stuff. It's out there. It's just not coming from Disney anymore. I don't even know what to say about Disney. There's really their proxy wars going on.
Votes tomorrow.
That's the big thing.
Mm-hmm. I have my doubts that Peltz is going to get a board seat, but at least it'll shake some things up over there for at least 6 more months.
Well, now we got George Lucas on the side of Disney.
No, he's left his wife in charge of that. I mean, that's
he's got freaking non-disclosure agreements and non-disparagement
all I was gonna
clauses that he.
All I was gonna say is people were really upset, and now nobody cares. I was like, that was a nothing story.
Well, it's because a select few people probably brought up the fact that he's tied to freaking non-disparagement clauses. Did we really already forget? Has it been that long? Spoiler, it hasn't. Since he made the freaking white slavers comment and then he got slapped by Disney Legal.
It's been 84 years, Andrew.
It's been like
a decade almost. Oh, almost
3.
A decade, yeah. Well, he did the white slavers thing after The Force Awakens came out.
Yeah.
I thought it was later.
That was 20.
Okay,
no,
so
20,
all right,
because it was with Charlie Rose, and Charlie Rose hadn't been canceled yet. So yes, that would have been around 2015.
So it's been almost.
That's what happened to him. He didn't die. He got canceled. Okay.
So it's been almost a decade. Still, that's not that long. And yeah, guys, like remember, he signed some documentation when he sold the IP over to Disney. He can't trash talk the IP. He legally cannot.
Correct.
It is signed. It is in documentation. We could have all of the conversations about, his wife, maybe doctoring or futzing with that statement that was put out.
We don't
that
we don't have to humor any of that garbage. I was just making the joke that everybody cared and now no one cares. That's all I was saying.
That's true,
I don't
because
think there's anything else to it.
It doesn't matter at this point. Listen,
With the end, it
Lucas
changes
is not
nothing.
even good enough for his own brands that he makes. Like, we've known that. We've seen it. There's evidence to it. It's
I'm
just
going
the
to
way
say
it
something like I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of people off right now. You ready for this? Lucas isn't a good world builder.
No, he's
the
an experimenter.
vast majority of the world building that was done in Star Wars was done by other people. It was done by the EU writers. Lucas told a very good story with the OT, and I love the prequels to death. But outside of that, I know you don't, Jeff.
No, I don't either. I think they were.
I love them to death.
Backwards.
They're part of my childhood. There's an attachment.
They were part of my. I'm the same age as you, man. They were part of my childhood as well.
I was 14 when they came out. I was like, this is not right.
Okay, so you're not that much older than me, then. Script, you keep acting like you're this old ass man.
He feels
39.
it. It's not the age; it's the mileage.
Dude, you're not even 5 years older than me.
Probably not. No.
What the hell? This entire time, you keep acting like you're some 55-year-old guy. You're actually only 4 years older than me.
I have done a lot for a 39-year-old.
You have, and that's actually to your credit.
Well, I am lucky that I'm only gray in the beard and not up top. But I mean,
listen, it's true though. Lucas tapped out after the prequels, guys. He tapped out,
and he drew a lot of what he explored from the EU into the prequels. Like that's the thing. Like
he leveraged the EU in a lot of the storytelling.
Coppola, Spielberg, Marsha, Gary Kurtz, De Palma, all those guys helped make the first Star Wars movie.
Coruscant was something he drew from the EU.
Well, hold on. Back to what you're saying, Script. All those voices did build that. That's important. I don't think a lot of people. There's two ways to approach Star Wars. There's the fan way and the fan way that's the academic way where you don't jump to the lore, you jump to the movie, you treat it like what it is a movie. Because nobody, when you talk about other movies, people jump to that. But Star Wars, it's they skip that it actually is a produced thing and just kind of talk about the fictional part that's all that exists
as a whole.
That's fine, but that misses the most fascinating part because it just evolves into this character's more powerful, this thing's cooler than that thing, but there's no deeper anything, because even the writers themselves just take from Star Wars and build off of other things, and that's far more interesting. I hope we get more stuff that I hope we get more future projects that can understand what it actually is instead of that I don't know, the fantasy version.
Well, that's one of the big problems with these major franchises in general, right? Which is that we get people attached to them that are doing a sequel or a prequel or just whatever, something that's set in X universe, right? That they don't understand the actual heart and soul and purpose or really much of anything of the universe that they're supposedly operating out of, outside of maybe at best, the aesthetic, right? You might get something, that kind of looks like that, but it doesn't feel like the thing, right? It's okay, you got some of the visuals right, but it still doesn't feel right. It still doesn't feel like the thing. And that's because these people don't care.
I've been watching a lot of stuff about the creation of things, and I don't think it's that they don't care. I think they only care about their ways more.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, that's the Zack Snyder way. I'm telling my story.
Yes.
Well, I don't
but-
give a shit about your story. I want Superman or I want Star Wars. I don't care about you. I'm not here for you. I'm here for the world that you're supposed to be doing something in.
I think it's the character, not even the world. Like that's where
Well,
that's where I
definitely the
think.
character more so than anything.
But I think that's where film goers have been sold on a series of words by studios to talk about a film in a way that's like it sounds more grandiose than it is. It's like, and all it is really is when you talk about world building, it's how to make many movies off of one franchise. It's like, oh, we could have this character, and oh, we have the Perry White movie and the Jimmy Olsen movie. It's like, look, some things you do need the world to be right. Some things you do need the world to be built. Like you always need the world to be right, but some things you don't need to have to really build it. Like if you make a Superman film, it's all there. You just have to do it the right
The
way.
world's built for you. Just like
Yeah.
write the character. Like make sure the character is the character. Make sure
Make
I
Superman
can
fun.
recognize. Yeah, make sure I can recognize Clark Kent and Superman.
Well, not only that, don't put the world building or the world itself before your characters. Your characters are the audience's guide into this world. You don't
Well, they're
need
what
to
sell us on the world.
Well, no, like the world is a byproduct of the characters. You're bought into the characters. And if you like the world, that's just you further liking the fact that the characters introduced you to this world. But the world should never be dominant over the character.
Thank you. That's where I feel
I
like
agree with
every
that.
movie is trying to be today. And like everybody that makes entertainment is trying to sell you that. Like, I don't care. Like, for me,
Star
you know,
Wars hasn't been
characters.
about the characters since George Lucas finished episode 3. It's
Yeah.
always been, oh, this is a story about Star Wars. It's all about the world.
Well,
Here's
they
the
tell us,
clone
right?
troopers.
A Star Wars story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even before that, like the entire Clone Wars stuff, that was not about the Clone Wars. It was about Star Wars and seeing other parts of the world, other characters, but not doing anything to actually make people really, really fall into them unless you were
A lot of
a
Star Wars
kid.
fans, like longtime Star Wars fans, still enjoyed Clone Wars. I personally have only seen the first season, so I can't comment on it, and I won't.
I've seen it all. Like, I liked the show, but the only thing I like about the show is it fills in the gaps in the prequels, but that doesn't give a pass to the prequels. Just because you have to watch like 6 years worth of a TV show for 3 movies to make sense or to be fleshed out, I don't think that is a positive you could give to the movie. I think that's still a negative because it doesn't matter about.
I think the
anything that's
excess stuff
expanded.
should enhance the other stuff, right? It
I
should
agree,
augment it
enhance
rather
but not
than like
fix.
yes, exactly. No, I agree with you 100%
The Clone
on that.
Wars
I
was
don't
the
think it should be.
crutch
Yeah.
for the prequels.
It shouldn't be
sadly,
something
though.
that's like these make sense now because of this other stuff. No, these should make sense as a trilogy.
Yes.
These should work and tell a complete story as a trilogy. I should not need Clone Wars in order for the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin as brothers, like in the kind of like esoteric sense, for that to actually feel like it means something.
And you don't need a story
without
about
watching
Ahsoka going to find Thrawn because that's not a story. That's just showing you events that's happened in Star Wars. And you know what? To the Mandalorian, like that first episode, oh, we got a story here. A character has to now protect what he thinks is a child. And then what they do, they drop that. And it's like, okay, he's no longer doing that anymore. He's just wandering aimlessly through the Star Wars galaxy, showing us other characters, no real stakes, no urgency, nothing going on, no connection, not even a love story. Like, come on. It doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be a romantic love story, just a love story in general. Like Luke's story is a love for his father who he never knew. And when he finds out this dark secret, he still loves him and he wants to make him the hero that he always imagined him to be.
Script, I want to add to what you're saying. As a kid, I never understood why these movies had to have romance. I understand love story is not necessarily a romance story, but I'm just going to say that. But like, I do at this age. I get it. Like with Spider-Man, I'm like, why is because on the commercials back in the day, like the way MTV would market the movie is Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire. It's like this, teen love fest. And you're like,
the least interesting thing about those movies because they had zero chemistry.
But it's also not at the forefront of said film. It's just, it's a big part.
Well, it was incorrect marketing on MTV's part.
But my point is, though, I understand, like, at this age, like, in crafting stories or, reading things that really resonate, like Batman 89 needs a romance. You think like, why does Batman need a romance? He's got Catwoman or this or that. But there you go. He's got it in
Catwoman's
every
actually a
movie, and it
toxic
makes.
relationship for Batman.
But here's the thing: we're never supposed to go deeper with these characters. If you read them in their original forms or their refined eras where they really get the characters right, they're light stories. We live in an era where we don't make enough new shit, so we overanalyze the old. And so then they try to modernize the new to make it stand up to the modern criticisms, and it loses what made it. So then you just are kind of left with either 2 versions or 10 versions, or just you're not entertained anymore. And I think that's where we keep falling into each and every time that I don't know, we as a society try to break down stuff, and then we just like push it off to the side. Like, anybody care about Squid Game anymore? No, there's more shit. There's merchandise out there. We were obsessed with it for like 5 minutes. We overanalyzed it and then threw it away.
5 minutes.
It's a disposable culture,
it, yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's part of the culture because we've circumvented the concept of reading and digesting a story to the instant gratification of the live action or cartoon medium. And the very thing that made us love those cartoon shows and those live action films of the 70s, 80s, and 90s is the fact they were written by people who actually grew up reading the books that we should have been reading as kids as well.
I mean,
because now all we
well
have is a whole generation of people that grew up watching the same stuff we watched.
Yeah.
And they produce very weak derivatives of that same stuff that doesn't capture the same soul and essence, because sometimes, and this is both a benefit and a fault of fans. Sometimes they love something so much that even when they try to look into it, they don't want to see the forest for the trees. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it only becomes an issue if you want to transcend from that fan to be a creator. And because if you can't find out that nuance, can't see that forest for the trees, all you're giving us is essentially the derivative of Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica wedged into a soap opera Dawson's Creek type approach to your superheroes, your fantasy, your sci-fi, your horror, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to live in that world.
We already live in that world right now, and to drag ourselves out it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, but at least like for the 3 of us, the creative sphere is rewarding enough that you can work through the shit and then find a way to make it rewarding in other ways. Like, it's coming, folks. More new stuff is coming. You just got to find out from where. Here,
like
script,
Wokebusters here in a few weeks.
So excited.
Yes.
I don't really have anything else to say. I perfected the pitch. I give it to people now in person and I watch their faces. I'm at that level with it. So
cool. That's where you want to be. To be on a serious level for a second, that's where the true test is, right? Like, because I think there's a balance to be struck between having a love for something as a fan, but also understanding something. Those are 2 different things. And it's not like they're mutually exclusive. You can do both, but in order to be a creator and present something to fans that respects them and respects the thing that they love, you have to understand how to do both. And maybe you weren't this massive fan before, but you're respectful enough to do the work and then become one, at least insofar as much as you can pass it off and convince fans that you enjoyed this thing, right? You can say, you can convince fans, hey, I love Spider-Man, and you pull out a freaking Spider-Man 2, right? Like, oh, sure, I bet he loves Spider-Man because I watched this movie and I can tell, right? So I'm really hoping that in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, a year, 2 years, we start to see far more, and I think we're going to, out of creatives like Jeff, out of the Rippaverse, out of any of these other indie guys, whatever things that Script can't talk about on stream yet, all these other indie creators out here that are trying to provide entertainment for fans, that we're going to take all the experiences that we've had as fans of these things, whether it's Spider-Man, Star Wars, Flash, whatever, and we're going to utilize those things. We're going to leverage that knowledge, and we're going to allow that to inform us. And if we're people of talent, and I know that Jeff is for sure because of what he's put out so far, and I'm certain that Script is as well,
I have my
that
moments.
that will that will be able to give the masses, or at least give the target demographic, we'll say, something that they'll enjoy, that they can say, yeah, these people are absolutely fans of this type of thing because I can tell, because I consumed this thing that they made and I believe them.
Well, I'll tell you this. We've talked about this off air. Like, I said it to you, Script, like twice. You've brought up like what makes Ghostbusters Ghostbusters. I'm like, oh yeah, that's all in the book. But the one thing that I'll tell people now, because I'm trying to save all the pitch stuff. Also, too, folks, I'm also almost in WrestleMania mode. Like, I leave in a day, less than a day. So I'm not trying to be unprofessional, but I also don't want to half-ass anything with Wokebusters because I put all this time into it. So I don't want to come off as laissez-faire in any regard to it because it doesn't deserve that whatsoever. But I will say, you'll see that it's not only about, and I just want to put this out there for anybody that ever questions anything, it's never about being a fan of Star Wars or a fan of Ghostbusters. I use Ghostbusters to shine a light on the world we live in, and we basically live in a cartoon. So that's why I wanted to do it real Ghostbusters style, because the world we live in, the problems we have, some of the craziest stuff that people argue about is ridiculous. And so, you know, you need a physical manifestation of those things, which is what Wokebusters deal with, and you'll see more than just Ghostbusters on a page. Realistically, you'll probably get into this story and you won't even think about Ghostbusters per se, but then you'll look at it thematically and structurally and go, oh. So believe me, the way Andrew talks about it is fair. The way Scripted talks about it is fair. And the way I act or go about it is both of those ways. So I'm just excited, man. Like, I love to talk about the creative process. Like I told you off air, Andrew, I've been already working on the next project, and I got the cover art done essentially. So it's like, shit, I'm in this like super creator mode. So I want to take over the world. Why not do it with cool stuff instead of pumping out garbage like Marvel and DC? I'm not about buying their shit right now. Like, according to Blood Terror, the stuff that's going on with Alfred in the Batman comic makes me not want to get it.
Tom King killed off Alfred like 3 years ago.
I haven't read Batman in that long, dude.
Yeah, he killed off Batman forever ago. Like, not too long before he was kicked off the book. He was supposed to have, I think it was like 100 his contract was for like a 100 issue run or something like that.
Yeah.
And they kicked him off at issue 80 something.
Shit.
And replaced him with James Tynion IV, who, to his credit, though he couldn't like fix things in terms of like bringing Alfred back to life through some bullshit, the stories that he was telling were really good. Like, that was when I last had a pull list with my old LCS back in Washington. James Tynion IV was writing Batman, and that book was legitimately good. And I was like, wow, Batman's good again. That's been a minute.
Well, I gotta blame you, Script, because I really only accept like Bronze Age Batman right now. I've been going back and looking at stuff.
Oh no! If you keep sticking with that, all of a sudden you're only going to accept Silver Age, and then you're going to go full script and only accept Golden Age.
Oh, dude, I will.
And then I'm going to start
guarantee right now. I don't like Golden Age comics. Like, I don't like certain '90s books. I don't want to dump on stuff because I'm not trying to sound like a hater. Because look, folks, you have dissenting opinions on stuff that you like. Like, I don't like the Golden Age. I think those books are too archaic for me. The art is what it was. It's a product of its time. It's a great reflection. If I want to look back into the past, I'll study it, I'll analyze it, but I'll never ever prefer it because I don't care about the creators the way I care about the Silver Age guys. I'm much more fascinated by those guys and their work. Even, pre-Silver Age stuff, I guess it would be Golden Age creators, but it's like, the spirit. I like the spirit. That's a cool thing. I like pulp stuff from that era, but you're never going to hear me. You're never going to have me tell you one is better than the other. I think every era has its merits, but I think it's important as a creator to know the difference.
I think Script convinced me that he was like 60 years old because of how much he always comes off as preferring Golden and early Silver Age stuff.
No, I prefer the Bronze Age stuff more.
That's 70s, man.
Yeah, that's late 60s and 70s. The Golden Age has a charm to it, and there's a lot of valuable aspects you can take from it. But again, the writing quality,
all the
and
character
the
work
art quality
came in
did
the
not
Bronze
really hit a
Age.
stride until you got further into the Silver Age, and then with the revitalization on the Bronze Age, mostly for DC. Marvel was actually doing fairly steady work, I would say, from its inception into the 70s, and then had a nice little renaissance towards the late 70s and throughout
The
the
way
80s.
that I've always looked at it is that Golden Age introduced the characters. Like, here's the character.
Yep.
Here's their powers. Right? And that's that. Now in the Silver Age, okay, we're going to try and use science to explain their powers. We're going to try and make a little bit more sense of this, right?
It was the Atomic Age.
Yeah, exactly. But then we get into the Bronze Age and it becomes a lot more character focused. We start to dive a lot more into, all right, who are these characters actually, right? Rather than just beyond what can they do.
It's a little
Right?
character,
I
but
need
it's
I
also
need
a
mo- I
harken
need
back to the
more
pulp
than
style.
just what they can do. And it was different for every character, and it was different for both DC and Marvel, to your point, Script, because they were at different points in that same era. But that's kind of how I've always, at least within DC, kind of broken it down. It's like Golden Age introduced the characters. This is the things that they can do. Those were interesting. That's what latched people onto them initially. Silver Age attempted to explain that via science because of the era that we were in. Bronze Age, for me, that's where we start to dive more into at least some of the characters. Not every single character benefited in the same way.
No, I mean, Wonder
but
Woman had some problems in the Bronze Age.
yes, some did, absolutely. However, other characters
Thanks,
benefited
Danny O'Neill.
tremendously. Like, other characters saw vastly more success than they had ever seen before. So it's really interesting to dissect how styles and approaches in writing, not counting any of the social crap, kind of evolved from the Golden Age to the present, and seeing, like, all right, what was kind of like the main driving thing? How would I sum up this era in just a quick thing? And that's how I usually break down those three initial ages with DC.
I would say the Golden Age is the money age. We're doing this because there's a boom in comics and we produce them as fast as possible because it is a job for hire. It is a valuable job. And then when you are Silver Age, it's a resurgence in something that has found new life post the comics purge of the 50s and all that bullshit and the hokiness of the
cross-media.
superhero.
It's cross media because that's when the radio shows started to go on the decline, and TV and serials of the late 50s and 60s started to go into the rise. Most prominently, the Batman show of the 60s saved the Batman title because it was going to face cancellation. And it also allowed for investment into the other characters to maintain their runs because of some of the crossovers they were doing. I mean, and then the Bronze Age it's a throwback to some pulp style stories focusing on character, but also digging into certain genres that were not really explored much. Like the Batman stuff of the late 60s to 70s really got into the mystery genre, and also the dynamics of like noir and pulp and things of that nature. The entire story arc with Silver St. Cloud and Rupert Thorne in the Bronze Age is fantastic. I strongly advise you seek it out. They're sparse throughout some of the issues because, again, we're dealing with comics at a time when a story was not a 4-part story was not told necessarily under the same title right away, and also not in the same release order. So you'd have Batman comics where you'd have one part of the story with like Ra's al Ghul, and then the following 4 Batman comics of that same line didn't follow up on it until much later, until you went to the detective comics, and then back there 7 or 8 issues afterwards. So it was a little jarring in getting the organization of it, but at the same time, like once you got those issues and you put them all back to back and you read the story in completion, you're like, wow, this is way more cerebral and more heady on the character exploration of what Batman's going through than you'd ever seen in the Silver Age before.
Silver Age Batman is unreadable to me. Well, that Silver Age is the 50s as well, right?
Yeah, it's late 50s up until around 66, 67.
Because like 50s Batman, I look at the covers and I go, no. No, I'm never gonna touch it. Like I collect the Batman shelf is the smallest representation, folks. I'm sorry to all the DC enthusiasts out there. I apologize in advance. I only have like movie and 1 or 2 comic versions. I don't have 50s Batman merchandise. I don't think I'd ever pick up a 50s Batman style.
I don't actually like Batman pre-Bronze Age.
Who, me?
I
Is
don't.
that what I'm saying? Oh, you don't?
Yeah,
I-
Batman. I mean, because look, we can have conversations, and I'm sure the script would be happy to have those conversations for a while about the character. But
He's fun in the 40s. Batman's cool in the 40s. I'll say that.
yeah, I just feel like Batman hit his stride. They hit something in the Bronze Age that wound up carrying forward, or at least they carried certain aspects forward that they were like, all right, this is what's really resonating with audiences, our target audiences with this character. So despite the Silver Age stuff and despite the Golden Age stuff, and they were able to utilize, I guess to their credit, or as much as I hate multiverses, they were able to utilize the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths thing to reset things. They were like, okay, this is what people want to see out of Batman. And they allowed that to inform them on how to handle the character moving forward. There have been instances where they have gone too far with him, certainly. But it's not until after, because no disrespect to Adam West whatsoever.
Yeah, you better watch what you say about him on this channel.
No disrespect whatsoever. However, that's not Batman for me. That's a fun show. A really fun show, actually.
I'm glad you just said
I would
at the end of that.
I would encourage people who just want a fun time with television to watch that show. However, I would not say to somebody who just wants Batman.
Hold on, though.
That show.
That's there's no wrong way to think, per se. What I'm trying to get at is you're cutting out an entire generation of people where that's Batman for a certain age.
Oh, I understand.
But that's it. There's nothing else. So when you say you want to show,
well, just like
Batman,
there are people that not only do they not acknowledge the sequels for Star Wars, but they don't even acknowledge episodes 5 and 6.
But there's
they
a difference.
Will only watch Star Wars.
But there's a difference between willfully ignoring other movies and only knowing a certain version of a character because it was so prominent at a certain point and you grew out of that character. Like, you know, you can be like, my mom's a prime example. My mom likes Batman. She loved it as a kid. She didn't follow it when she grew up. She just knew Adam West. And then when I got into Michael Keaton as a kid, that was like what Batman was for that. Mm-hmm. But for her, when she still thinks of Batman, it's, you know, Biff Bam Pow Zaki, you know, and the fucking Batusi. So,
and those shows are fun as hell.
But I think shows like Batman and then Batman Brave and the Bold go to show you like Batman is okay, you can't do it with Spider-Man. He's just one. But like Batman can be 3 to 4 different versions of a character.
Yeah.
Or
the most authentic ones are where the moral compass of Batman doesn't change. And that's one of the things I really like. Because across the 60s Batman, the animated series, Brave and the Bold, you can easily recognize the moral compass of where Batman is in all 3 of those variations. And they're all very different interpretations, but the moral compass is the same. He has moral root, he has a moral direction, he has a code. He will not kill. He actually has a heart and he cares about the people that he's got relationships with. Like Jim Gordon, he sees him as almost like a father, the same way he sees Alfred like a father. Dick Grayson, he sees him like a son, and he'd be proud to have him as a kid if that were the case. All those things are actually really true to what Batman is, because that's what keeps him human, and that's what contributes to what he's doing this for. It's not just the vengeance aspect. It's the fact that he doesn't want other people to suffer. And he also wants to get back what was taken from him, which is his family. Like, that's it. If his parents didn't die, Bruce would never have had any need to go back to go and become Batman. And the whole reason he's on that path is because criminals stole the one thing that was more important than money and jewels.
I can talk philosophically about Batman, even though he's not my favorite superhero, but
you can do the same thing with Spider-Man, because he's got a very similar aspect where he made a choice that cost him dearly. And now even though for a great many years he used that mistake as a burden on him, it wasn't until much later that he realized that the responsibility is beyond the burden and that there's something to embrace about it. And it was a difficult journey for him to take. And that's why I think he resonated so well with readers, not just upon his debut, but all the way through the various changes that comics had made. over the decades.
He is a character that I will read any era of, but I always find myself going back to the beginning because no other superhero is so perfectly formed in their early years. Like Batman takes, like, look at for you, Andrew. You said Bronze Age, you're not really into the stuff before that, and that's great. But look at that's 40 years of or 30 years of Batman's existence.
That's a lot of years of where like it's like I can read it and enjoy it, but to me, Batman isn't Batman until we're at least at the Bronze Age.
But with Spider-Man, like that character's there in the beginning. Maybe the art's harder to look at for some people, but like, and the costume's the fucking same as it is now. No other superhero is 1-to-1. Like, maybe you got armpit webs, maybe you don't, or you change the lens slightly. That's it. You could argue the back spider. Some people say it's a printing difference. It all depends. Look, I use this as my drawing board. This is my Todd McFarlane, artifact edition.
That's amazing.
It wasn't my favorite Christmas gift, probably, but the last couple pages of Wokebusters were drawn on top of that, folks. So there you go. In the future, it'll be a collector's item, which I won't be parting with because it's my current drawing board and I like the book. If I ever meet Todd McFarlane, this is the shit I want to get signed, though.
Oh hell yeah, dude! That would be freaking awesome.
These are my thing. I love to collect these big Marvel books. I have no interest in, like, how do I want to phrase it? I will buy these first, then omnibuses or omnibuy sound interesting to me. It's harder for me to want to get single floppies anymore, but I'm still feeling the call to finish the Spider-Man collection. Like after Wokebusters and a few other books, I might go back and finish every Amazing Spider-Man.
Like start to knock out all the Marvel Masterworks collections.
Oh,
with Spidey.
We got to remember, okay, for Spider-Man specifically, I have to have all the original issues, all the Marvel Masterworks in hardcover, and then all of these big editions, because I will never open the original books. I'll put them in nice Mylar bags and never really touch them. I will read the Marvel books in the Marvel Masterworks, and then if I want to really get a good look at the artwork, I will look at these because these are the best representations. So I guess I'm just saying I need to have this shit like 4 times over to get the full effect, and that's a problem when I say it out loud.
That's a problem for the bank account, but not for your spirit.
I get
thank you, Script.
Special edition.
Thank you.
Large hardcover versions of something that you love. I understand.
They're beautiful books.
My artist gallery edition of Michael Turner's Return of.
Now, are you going to sit down and look at the pencil work and try to replicate it?
Replicate it? No, I'm not an artist. I can't draw for shit.
I advocate everybody
I'm not you, man.
Try.
I'm not
everybody
you.
Should try.
I don't
can
have
match a lot of Jim Lee stuff from Batman.
You what?
I can match a lot of Jim Lee stuff from Batman because when he did Hush, when I saw him do that, I was like, oh, I see how he did that, and I just started not tracing, just kind of copying it, and first to get the way he does his anatomy, and then his eyes, and especially the prominent eyebrow stuff that he does, especially on Batman's cowl, like where it just protrudes out. I was doing that in high school and in college. And what's funny is that whenever I would do a pitch deck and I would do a quick sketch, I'd do it in art style similar to Jim Lee. No one ever said this looks like you got Jim Lee to do it because I'm not that good, but they do always gravitate more to like, oh yeah, this works and stuff. The only thing I'm really bad at is shadowing. Like I know how to do the light source, but I just don't know how to do the tones from like the darks all the way to the lights, and whether or not do I do a solid line or do I do a crosshatch or dots? Or
if you're trying to copy Jim Lee, everything's hatching. Like
I was going to say, Jim Lee, it's all hatching. Even more so if you're Mark Silvestri.
Yeah.
Even more so if you're a guy like Mark Silvestri, who I admittedly like more than Jim Lee. And one of the more recent Batman books that I bought was the hardcover collection of Batman Joker Deadly Duo, which is all
I saw that at the store.
Yeah, all written and illustrated by Mark Silvestri, one of my favorite 90s artists, founder and CEO of Top Cow Comics, creator of Witchblade and all that. And man, I love his style, but it's funny now that I'm a little older, and especially since I'm creative director over at the Rippaverse, and I'm managing all these different artists that have vastly different styles on all these books that we have going on. Looking at looking at what they're producing, I'm looking at his work, and I'm like, wow, I really did not think about how much cross hatching Mark Silvestri utilizes in his work constantly, but it works because it's unique. Nobody utilizes it to the degree that he does. A lot of 90s artists used it a lot, like Jim Lee, like you said, Will Spertatio as well. But Mark Silvestri was like, yeah, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to dial it up to 12.
Well, he was doing it before them, though. Like
he's really like kind of the real innovator of it, at least in terms of like such heavy usage of it.
Yeah,
right?
like he just is just a much more realistic artist. Like he brought that in a time where, I mean, look, in the 80s, you had different definitions of realism. Some would say John Byrne was a realistic artist. In anatomy and anatomically speaking, yes, those faces weren't at all. Like I love him, and I'm not here to knock. He's one of my
he's
my favorite.
His
living
body
artist.
is certainly far more.
Yeah, but yeah, the body's definitely, and he's got a unique look. Same with Jim Lee, but Jim Lee's is even a little more realistic. But Silvestri's, I won't even call him the bridge because it really is just a taste of opinion. They're both like as good as the other one. There's really, you can't say like, this guy's better than that guy. It's not like,
oh no, I love both of them. They both are easily in my top 10. Silvestri in my top 5 for sure.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think anybody can make the argument that either of those guys can't draw, and that you can't really argue that one is so much above the other. Like, I think they're both really great.
Oh, man, absolutely. Like, I will reread. I will reread this for no other reason than it's Jim Lee art, panel after panel after panel.
Buddy, I bought every issue, every delay or however long it took because it was Jim Lee.
It was never truly finished. There was supposed to be like another 2 or 3 issues.
I think we were happy that it ended. It was put out of its misery, and so were we, and we're all better for it. So
Frank Miller, man, was going through some shit when he was writing it.
But you know
Frank
what?
Miller's been going through that since the late 80s.
Yeah. It's like, how much can you take? I think Frank Miller, with all due respect, I don't think he's been Frank Miller since the 90s.
Yeah.
I don't really...
Better Jim Lee, all Jim Lee Batman book with better story that isn't making you want to punch yourself in the face. Hush.
Oh, yeah. No, Hush was good until you realize that Jeff Loeb did not understand that he didn't have an ending for it right away. He wrote that without any idea that there was an ending.
It still really wraps up fine. What does not wrap up fine is the animated movie adaptation of Hush. That movie was holy shit bad.
Yeah.
I thought that was the worst animated DCU movie that I had watched. And then I watched their adaptation recently of Part 1 of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I was like,
oh, wait till you see The Long Halloween. That's even worse than that.
Yeah.
I haven't bothered to watch that yet because the
animation looks nice.
Long Halloween is a good story. I don't like Tim Sale's art, so I've only literally read that book once because I was like, okay, story was good. Art makes me want to punch myself in the face.
Well, of course, the story is good. It's The Godfather.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
That's
so I haven't bothered to watch the animated adaptation, but I have heard that it's not good. I have heard that the animated adaptation is not good.
No, but DC's facing right now, or at least has faced, because a lot of these animated projects were commissioned a few years ago. They have been doing the equivalence of the quality that Marvel had with their straight to DVD animation films. Like they're not there. They're leaning on all the wrong aspects that they think audiences are interested in, but actually aren't. I'm glad that it's ending because the Crisis on Infinite Earths cartoon films are going to end. And they are terrible, but they're going to end, and they're going to basically close off everything that you've ever known of DC at that time, so that James Gunn's DC Studios will take over.
How do you feel about that?
For better or for worse?
Until I see a trailer, I can't really for Superman. I can't really make an assessment for that.
That's the thing. It's all speculation right now, right? I mean, like we're all just like, all right. So like the castings look pretty rock solid so far, but like I know nothing about the movie.
going to be a Superman cartoon show that's going to have all the actors from the movie in there doing the voices. That is part of their contract. So Rachel Brosnahan is going to be voicing Lois Lane in an animated form. Cornsweat's going to be doing Superman. What's his name? Who's doing Lex Luthor? He's going to be doing the voice of Lex Luthor in those as well. It's a solid gig to have. Unfortunately, that it's going to lead to some problems in a few years when those actors are want to try and do other projects, but they don't have the time to do it.
Mm-hmm. I hope it turns out well. I really do. Otherwise, I guess I could always go back and rewatch the Diniverse Batman and Superman animated series. I'm okay with that.
I think we live in such an interesting era of accessibility for animation that a lot of my comfort food shows like those they're falling off. Not that I don't like them, not that they're not great. I just am, watching a lot of different stuff. But I do want to go back and rewatch that Superman episode, those 3, where Batman shows up to Metropolis and they fight the Joker. Yep, World's Finest. Mm-hmm. I had that on tape. I had it on DVD. I got it on Blu-ray technically. So bring out the 4K. I fucking love that. Those 3 episodes are the best 3 DC animated things ever. Like when you make that one episode movie, I'm there. That's my favorite DC thing. They just got it all. It was perfect. It was funny. It was cool. The Joker might have died at the end. Like it had everything going for it.
It was a very the way that the Joker might have died at the end is a very Bronze Age thing, because they used to do that a lot in the 70s. Like Joker be like, oh, he's dead this time, and then he comes back, and then they give you a little tease on how he survived, or sometimes they would just ignore it altogether, and you're like, son of a gun.
Yeah. I loved when Batman's like, they're like flying down with a parachute and Harley Quinn's like pudding, and then Batman goes, at this point he probably is, and it's just like, ouch, that's mean, and
it is
he's probably dead. So I loved it. Let's talk about this Shakira thing so I don't have to lie about the title of tonight's show. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
This was a really interesting story, actually.
Yeah, this actually is interesting. Let's put up a picture of Shakira and Margot Robbie as Barbie.
I'm okay with both of these ladies being on screen.
Oh yeah, Shakira's. I can't believe she's like 50.
I've learned more about Shakira in the last day than I ever wanted to as a result of this of her statement.
I remember when she hit it big in America back in the day. It was like 01. And I thought she was like, oh my God, she's so great looking. So I remember watching that video and I was like, all right, Shakira's cool. And then all of her big hits, I couldn't avoid them, even if I didn't like them. And so Shakira's always kind of lived in this, like, you're cool window for me. You're not my favorite, but I don't dislike you at all. So now Shakira is a Colombian superstar, and she wasn't really a fan of the Greta Gerwig Barbie film because of the brand of feminism that the film carried. So in an Allure profile on the cover story, the Colombian pop star, I'm not going to promote her album, she was talking about the film Barbie, and she had this to say. She says, I'm raising 2 boys. I want them to feel powerful too, while respecting women. I like pop culture when it attempts to empower women without robbing men of their possibility to be men, to also protect and provide, she explained. So Shakira clarified her comment, adding, I believe in giving women all the tools and the trust that we can do without losing our essence, without losing our femininity. I think that men have a purpose in society and women have another purpose as well. We complement each other, and that we complement should not be lost.
Wow.
You left out the statement where she said she took her boys to see the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't say that part? Oh, shit. Oh,
which that's the more perplexing aspect is.
Oh, sorry.
Why would you take your 2 boys to see Barbie?
Yeah, and the response was, my sons absolutely hated it. They felt that it was emasculating. I agree to a certain extent. I forgot to read that part. Sorry.
I remember spending a great deal of time yesterday double, triple, and quadruple checking that this wasn't some bullshit April Fool's thing, right? I freaking hate April Fools because this day and age,
the internet.
Yeah, it is. It's all the internet and all of social media's fault, because misinformation is so prevalent on the internet these days that we are giving people now an entire day to have an excuse to just print bullshit, right? And so it's like, even if somebody puts out an article that isn't meant to be an April Fool's joke or something like that, meant to be a gag, like, is it going to get taken seriously at all? Right. And so I spent a pretty great deal of time yesterday. Like, was this serious? Was this an actual interview that happened? Like, because did she actually say this? Because that's actually a big deal to me. And while I have not seen the Barbie movie, I've seen many different takes on it. And there's some that I agree with on both sides of the argument.
I've
I
suffered
think
through the movie.
I think what's far more important to me was what she said here, regardless of whether or not I agree about the movie or disagree about the movie. Again, I haven't watched the movie, so I don't consider myself entitled to a true opinion on it, not at least not one worth being taken seriously. What I do find interesting and valuable and quite telling is what she said about it, which was, I believe in, is paraphrasing, I believe in empowering women, but not at the expense of men. Right? We don't have to degrade men in order to empower women. This was something that Disney completely failed in with the sequel trilogy, right? Like, they had to prop up Rey by making all of the men look incompetent.
Yeah,
You
they
don't
did
have
that
to
in
do that.
Batwoman too.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, exactly. Well,
And not just
it's
the men, just the villains
we
too. They had to make the
we
villains
can
more
start
incompetent.
rattling off franchise after franchise at this point within the last 5 or 6 years. We would be here for another hour and a half just on this topic alone. But I think it's very telling that she recognized that, because you don't have to. You don't have to demean one group of people in order to uplift another. All you have to do is endear your audience and tell a good story utilizing this particular individual or this particular group. You don't have to shit on this other one in order to do that. If you're doing that, then that's a weakness in your writing. And as far as I'm concerned, it's also a weakness in your argument. Like, you don't actually think that these people over here have merit on their own. Therefore, you have to dunk on or demean these people over here in order to uplift these. It's not even like you're uplifting them. It's literally you're taking away from these. So as far as like them being on a set of scales, you're just taking away from these. So they're arbitrarily and superficially being lifted up over here. Not because they're better, but because you're just very deliberately making these worse, making these lesser. And I
Well,
found
with
it
that
very
aside,
interesting that she made that statement.
well, with that aside, she definitely has a good point of view with regards to how we should treat the genders, but she definitely does not have much vision or paying attention to her children when she decides to bring her two boys to a movie called Barbie.
Sure. No, I
That
don't
shows,
disagree with
I mean,
that statement at all. But the
that
statement
tells
that
me that she
comes out
doesn't
of
pay
that.
attention to the world around her in the way that she thinks. Because I saw the Barbie movie once in theaters. The only men in that audience were very sparse. There was a couple of gay guys, and then there's men with their girlfriends. There was not a single child that was male in that audience at all. And I had not even heard of anyone under the age of 13 that probably doesn't like Barbie having to go see that with their mom or sister or anything of that nature. So we have here a parent who has these opinions, which are perfectly valid, who decides, I'm going to take my two boys to see Barbie, to hell with whether or not they like it or like the character or the doll or anything. That shows me that she doesn't really know her kids all that well. And if you don't know your kids all that well, you're probably not going to be able to pick up a lot of other things that's going on in the world or entertainment either.
Well
Because
said.
your priorities
Fair
aren't
point,
on
too.
the things around you. The priorities are to yourself internally. And again, that's something that a lot of celebrities have.
And while I don't disagree with that statement, she at least had enough self-reflection after the fact to acknowledge what was going on to make the statement that she did. So regardless of what she may or may not have been taken into account going into it, she did still have the thought.
She had
to
a
make the
superficial
statement that she
take on
did.
it, which is fine. I mean, with any
I
luck,
don't really consider that superficial, though.
superficial. Oh, it is very superficial. Like the whole idea that they're trying to demean men in that film is a superficial take, because it's definitely done on the surface. But when you see what's going on behind that, and in about 9 weeks, if things go well, I might be in LA talking with Noah Baumbach, who wrote Barbie. And so I'm probably going to get through all the tabloid minutia of the interviews that he's had, and I might be able to actually get some solid answers out of him when we have a discussion, because there's more than that movie should have going on with it. And it's actually more of a commentary on how horrible feminism is, as opposed to saying it's pro-feminism.
Well, I want you to get that job for your own,
Oh no, this is just a general meeting and
okay.
stuff. Like it's not I hope the job that gets me out to LA is gonna come, but no, these are other plans, and I'm in talks with some people that want to do a little screenwriters confab of sorts. So
cool.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask, do you think her take could sound superficial because you think some of the nuance could have been lost in translation?
Always a possibility.
Localization. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I saw the movie once, but I know a lot of the things would those necessarily translate to other cultures. So, I mean,
yeah, I mean, the America Ferrera speech is incredibly ironic, because at no point does she makes the definitive accusation that it's men that are doing this. It's actually all implied that women are doing this to themselves, and she's not realizing that she's also blaming women, which I found hysterical. Because who says you have to be thin but not too thin? Not a guy, but a woman does. Who says you can't talk? You can enjoy talking about kids, enjoy having kids, but not talk about them all the time? Not a guy, but a woman does.
Don't tell me these things about this movie. I don't want to rewatch it. Okay?
I'm not saying you have to. I'm just
I don't want to even think about it having more depth than I didn't think it did.
Like I gave the Blu-ray to my girlfriend. I think she's only watched it once, and I was not present for that. And she enjoys it for what it is. Ken's her favorite character, and that's the other part.
I think that was the favorite character for a lot of people.
Everybody likes Ken. It's like you can't be a man-hating movie if everybody likes your character of Ken.
He was Ken-enough.
He was more than
enough. He had maximum Kenergy.
I get mad at myself. It was not even my fault, but I buy WWE figures, and so my Facebook gets Mattel ads, and I see all these stupid Ken and Barbie ads every day, and I hate it. Yeah, like the color pink's never been a problem for me, but now I just want to close my eyes and turn off my phone and take a nap.
I'm getting oversaturated with the wrong figures.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what's going next up on this shelf. The X-Men are looking lonely here, Mayfex. Make me a rogue so I can buy it. But folks, when I get back from WrestleMania, be on the lookout for the P.O. Box stuff. Like I had said, the one post office that I wanted to use did not have anything available. So
I've got a couple of Revoltech figures on pre-order right now.
Doesn't it feel good when that shit finally comes in? You're like, oh, I've had this on pre-order for a year, 2 years.
Yeah, well, one of the Godzilla figures that I pre-ordered isn't due to ship until next February, which makes me really sad.
No, because what'll happen is in a couple days you'll forget about it, and then other things will. Trust me, because I'm the man who has shit pre-ordered years out sometimes, and you'll be preoccupied with other things. You'll think about life. You'll think about work. You'll think about creative stuff. You'll buy other things in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And then, next year you'll be online and you'll be like, hey, there's a review for this toy. Wait, this looks great. Oh, wait, I pre-ordered it. Then you get pumped. Then it shows up. Then the hype really picks up. So don't worry. It won't suck as much as you think. The Inspector Gadget I pre-ordered a couple years ago felt like forever. And then one day it was there. And it was the greatest day of my life. I can't even finish that. Yeah. I do love Inspector Gadget, though. He is my favorite cartoon character.
Really?
Yeah. Just like pure cartoon character, because Spider-Man's not a cartoon character. He's a
comic book character that got adapted into cartoons. Yeah.
So yeah, same with like Lupin the Third or anything that's from manga to anime. You can't say is your favorite cartoon character in my eyes. You gotta preface that. But anyway, Inspector Gadget. I got my childhood gadget up there. I got my new gadget storage still, but He's always a part of my collection. And that video game on Super Nintendo was hard as a kid. I never beat it until I was an adult. So go back and try it, folks, if you're looking for a platformer that was challenging for a 5-year-old. Inspector Gadget.
Challenging for adults, honestly. Games back then didn't pull any punches.
No, I prefer it that way.
There was no journo mode.
No, yeah. So, since we're talking about gaming real quick, folks, I will be on the Side Scroller podcast coming up next Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that. I got that.
I will have to be there.
Locked in. Yeah, it's always fun to hang out with Blabs and Stuttering Craig. So, it'll be another fun day. I don't know what the topics are yet, obviously. You'll have to watch the show to find out. But, folks, keep showing up and showing love. I see a lot of familiar names over there when I'm there, and it's cool to show WCBS represent. So thank you guys for, being awesome.
Hell yeah.
Enrique Vasquez says, Jeff, did you make 55? Someone else used it on TikTok. I did not make that button. No, I did not. There's a Macho Man one and a Hulk Hogan one, and I thought it was funny. Some of the buttons I have made tend to be the audience favorites. I've obviously made the Buffalo Jeff or the Who's That Pokemon WCBS or all the motorcycle ones because I do add more.
I love those so much.
Yeah, I feel really bad. So, folks, go to shopwcbs.com and get the t-shirt with the motorcycle guy available for a limited time only from shopwcbs.com, powered by Teespring, so it's going to be just right. Thank you, though, Enrique, for letting me know it's on TikTok. I need to be on TikTok more. We need to take WCBS on more platforms. We're getting a lot of good people over on Rumble, so let's get a good people on TikTok and good people on locals. We'll just do it all. Xavier to God says, The Rock whipping Cody on Instagram is great.
I saw that clip earlier when I was scrolling through Instagram. I was like, hell yeah.
I have watched every appearance The Rock has had since he came back. I watched every Raw and SmackDown. This has been the road to WrestleMania where I feel like I'm a full-time viewer again. And
he's going hard into the Hollywood Rock paint, dude.
Oh, dude, it's there
amazing.
I haven't been this excited for a WrestleMania since WrestleMania 28 when The Rock fought John Cena. So I'm biased. I'm not embarrassed to say that. So this Saturday night is going to be night one of WrestleMania. And it'll be Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. So I'm going to be excited to see The Rock live. And then Sunday, we have another night of WrestleMania, or obviously LA Night. Yeah. So, folks, I'm telling you this because we'll do a live stream or two around Philadelphia. We'll eat some cheesesteaks. We'll hang out. We'll talk. We can't live stream anything in the arena because that's illegal. And I don't want the channel demonetized. You could just watch WrestleMania over on Patreon one day with us. We'll do the 1-year anniversary in 2025.
Have they announced where they're going to be next year yet?
Minneapolis is the rumor, essentially.
Okay. I was going to say, because next time they come to Texas.
You just missed it.
Was it 2 years ago or last year that they were in?
2 years.
It was 2 years.
Yeah, I was at that one at AT&T Stadium. There's a big. I have no opinion on the Cowboys, but that stadium's nice to go watch wrestling in because they don't have to build the awning for the outdoor shit, so you get a better view of the ring.
Yeah,
I would rather them go to arenas like that or stadiums like that than anything outdoor. I wish they would never do an outdoor WrestleMania because it ruins the look. Like, depending on where you sit, you could be hosed. So,
okay. Well, hopefully they come back here again soon.
I hope they do too. You and I should go to a wrestling show. We'll have a couple cases of beer, and we'll go watch.
I was about to say, it's not just going to be a couple of beers. It's going to be more than that.
I was going to say a couple of things, but I'm like, if you drink a couple bottles of wine before wrestling, that's not the manliest thing. But then again, Andre the Giant did it, so who am I to talk shit about my dad? Enrique Vasquez says, you get what you fucking deserve. You do. And you know what you deserve right now, Enrique? You deserve that button. Where is that button? The Joker button.
You get what you fucking deserve.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. You got what you deserved. Xavier to God, thank you. He says, in a better life or perfect world, we would have gotten Spider-Man 4 through 6 and Spectacular Spider-Man season 3 through 5 instead of the amazing Spider-Man movies. Andrew, are you hearing what a wonderful world we could have lived in if it wasn't for that Rudy Poo candy ass Andrew Garfield?
Nah, I'm hearing Xavier to God's bullshit. I would have been happy to have a fourth Spider-Man movie, and I sent you a couple of posts that suggests that maybe
Give the audience a quick recap of what you read in said post, please. I need to grab
so-
water.
Oh, all right, no worries. Thankfully, I can pull up our DMs here. So, which I will not share on screen because I'm not a bitch. So evidently, Tobey Maguire in an interview said that when he was asked about Spider-Man 4, he said, "I'm actually not working on that yet." Very specifically utilized the word "yet." Maybe that's a nothing burger. Take that for what you will. I personally would love to see more Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Just as I would also like to see a third Andrew Garfield and Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man without Avi Arad's horseshit involved in either of those productions, because both Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 suffered because of his bitch ass. So I would love to see both of them get at least one final kind of send-off film to close off their stories, whether it takes place before or after No Way Home. I'm here for either. I would be here for it. I really would, because I really don't care about Tom Holland. Never did. And
I
he
can't
looks kind of weird now, too. He's started to grow into his features. He looks kind of gaunt. And it's kind of weird. Like he no longer looks like the teenage Peter that they had in the MCU.
There's just one problem though. Like, it's been decades, or a decade in the terms of Spider-Man 3, and a decade plus, or a decade for a Mark Webb movie, and over a decade for the Amazing or the other franchise. I'm a big fan. Like, I will pump in money on all the Tobey Maguire shit. I'll go out and import Japanese figures. Like, I love the stuff, but all of this has passed. When X-Men 97 is a rare example because you're bringing an animated thing to the world, but we're 2 generations removed from Tobey, and he's my favorite, and I loved seeing him, and I in a perfect world want this, but realistically, we would get maybe one movie, and then what next? We would then try to bring back everything old, and all we keep doing right now, man, is it's just, oh man, we got to bring back this guy and that guy, and like, look, Michael Keaton, love him to death, but he's played both of his iconic roles now. So now we're going to get another actor to bring out their iconic.
We're being too anchored by the past and not actually forging a way forward.
Well, I do see what you're saying there, and that is a valid statement. However, I would say that right now we're in a phase where these studios really need some fan goodwill, and
you can generate that in other ways, though.
You can, but
plus,
if you can do that with something that a lot of people already love, and you honor that, you can garner some of that goodwill back quickly, and then utilize that information. Let that inform you on how to move forward afterwards. Like, do Spider-Man 4, close that off. I'm not saying do 4, 5, and 6. I'm not saying that. I'm like, I would be here for a Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire. I grew up with those movies. Those came out while I was in high school. I adore those movies. Do that. Do it right. Close that story off. Then move forward, knowing that you are now, instead of sinking into the icy waters, you're now back on thin ice. So you've been given back a little bit of goodwill. Use that information. Start to actually move in a direction to where you're making fans happy again. And then
don't
do
you need
something
the general
different.
Audiences, though, more so than just...
You need both. You need both.
Well, the sad truth is that
the general audiences get hyped because we get hyped, because we gas these things up, and then all of a sudden they tell their friends, they tell their family, and the general audience are important when it comes to
gassed up too much
normal audience media.
Yeah, but we've gassed up too much mundane crap to even justify listening to that. It's like, we're not really making anything that's worth getting hyped over, so we have this artificial hype, and
we haven't lately. That's
can
for damn
see through
sure.
it. Oh, it's been a decade plus, man. That that initial Marvel excitement, I know we were all like loving it through Endgame, but I mean,
I loved
it
it
wasn't
through
this.
Infinity War, maybe just before Infinity War.
But I'm saying that it wasn't the same level of excitement and like newness, novelty that it was the first Avengers movie. Like the Iron Man movie was a big deal, but Batman stole that summer. And then the Avengers stole 2012 and really changed everything. And it was really exciting. I think that the build between the first and second Avengers was like a really raw excitement. It almost felt like a new genre, even though it wasn't. It was just the culmination of other superhero movies that connected, which we've had other movies that connected in the past. But my point is, like, we had run through that novelty over the course of those 3 years, and it was exciting and different, but we kept we got into the weeds. We've gone off the rails in some of this stuff. I think we just need to come up with something that's going to appeal on like a base level. And I don't mean like, what I mean like is like a Kong versus Godzilla, where it's not about branding, it's not about having the IP, it's about having these stories that are real basic. It's just like two monsters. So, I think we need to like boil it down and distill what makes these stories great instead of trying to do it in a branded IP focused way. Just figure out like basic shit that works. Like, man versus robot. If that's the name of a movie in the future and it works, fine. But like, make it cool and exciting, but make it something different.
And make it competitive, because right now what you get is brand dependency. And that's where you're putting the brand first over what you're actually trying to do as a story. And that's Marvel's biggest failing that they've had, at least for the last 6 years, is that they're putting their brand ahead of what actually makes that brand valuable. And as much as I would also be excited for a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or the Amazing Spider-Man 3, because you can bring in closure to those characters and those stories and arcs. The one flaw that you have with that is that if they end up doing very, very well, instead of moving forward with bringing in a new, investing in a new IP or any other type of film, you might risk tainting that closure aspect of those two films by making more of them over and over again and essentially not learning your lesson. It's really hard to kind of revive a franchise and make that stick. And we've actually had a very strong, prominent, two actually prominent examples of that failing. The first, of course, is The Flash, because the whole idea of bringing Keaton back was to kind of reinvigorate that original franchise a little bit.
Yeah, but he was a side character in that movie. It wasn't a Batman movie.
But the one that was going to do a closure for that was the Batgirl movie. And that was tanked and shuttered before.
That was something nobody wanted to begin with, though.
Well, actually, it was because they wanted the Batman Beyond film. The only thing they did is they just switched out Terry McGinnis for Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, that's not the same thing to me. You're
It
not
may not
going
be the same thing
You're
to
not
you,
going to
but that-
convince fans that that's the same thing as getting something that they've been asking for years, which is a live action Batman Beyond adaptation.
But from the studio's perspective, it's like, oh,
well, the
Batman's retired
studio's
and
populated by retards. Like, no fan would equate those two.
actually, they probably would at the end of the day. If the end,
No, they
result
would
is
not.
Hold on. If the end result is Batman is retired and he's operating from the guy in the chair, teaching another person who's taken on the Bat mantle, that is verbatim what Batman Beyond is. The fact that it's Barbara Gordon and not Terry McGinnis is immaterial.
That is patently false. Those are two entirely different characters with two
We're
different
not
arcs.
talking about the characters. We're talking about the situation with which the premise of Batman Beyond operates, where he is old man Batman
with
sitting at a
old man
computer,
Batman
playing a new person who's
being the
taken on
mentor.
mantle of
Sure,
Batman.
okay, you get that much. Outside of that, they're entirely different.
Well, hold on, Andrew. I think this is the interesting point, though, when we're talking about a story as a fan versus somebody that's just telling like a story. Because you're showing how I feel about this, where it's like, how do these people not see through these things?
Right.
Where it's frustrating that they keep making the decisions, but then I also see Scripps' point when he's talking about like thematic stuff on how they approach it. I think we're at a standstill where you can't really. I think you should just deviate from this entire genre and go somewhere else if you're going to make appealing movies.
Yeah,
because I don't think you can really. I don't think you can go the character route to be truthful to source material anymore, and that be enough. Like, look what we're gonna get with the fucking Crow. That's our future. We're back into that era of superhero movies again, or comic book movies. We're out of that golden age of Marvel kind of insulating. The MCU insulated us from a lot of stupid takes because they saw 1-to-1 made money. Now we're back to experimental hot reinterpretations and we're all fucked. Like, are you going to enjoy it? No, because all the characters we love, dude, are going to be screwed to be reinterpreted by some jack off. So
All right. Well, to play devil's advocate, though, like we could play semantics and say, okay, so thematically, we can tell the same thematic story with a zillion different characters and a zillion different permutations. But the fact of the matter is, people who have been calling for a Batman Beyond film want Batman Beyond because they want to see Terry McGinnis in that Beyond suit
in the future.
Oh, absolutely. And Terry McGinnis.
You were not going to convince anybody that the Batgirl thing was going to be an adequate replacement for that.
Oh, who said it? Who said I'm convincing it's an adequate replacement? I'm saying it's exactly what the studio system would do to appease those fans. It's basically saying you want Batman
they
Beyond?
would certainly
well,
fail
Batman
in that
Beyond?
appeasement.
So when they look at Batman Beyond, and when even Paul Dini looks at Batman Beyond, it's not a Terry McGinnis story. It's a story about a retired Batman who is mentoring the next generation. Because that's the story.
Fine, but that conduit through which Bruce is mentoring somebody is specifically Terry. That's the character people fell in love with on there.
Isn't he the only one?
We got our chance to fall in love with Bruce. We did that. I grew up watching Batman the Animated Series and the New Adventures of Batman and Robin. I freaking love that, as did everybody else my age. We know who Bruce is. The key to Batman Beyond is the relationship between Bruce and Terry. Terry was a really likable character. He was way different from Bruce. He was not the same character as Bruce at all.
No.
And we fell in love with that character.
Well, see, Script, I think the one part that Hollywood would look at that, they're forgetting that like the appeal of Batman Beyond was also that hear me out for a second. Terry McGinnis and his shit is just like Spider-Man meets Batman. It really is like that. Like watch those stories. It's the same thing. It's just like instead of having a secret identity, his boss knows that he's whatever. Like it's the same kind of like teen drama mixed with Batman that you didn't necessarily have in Batman. And I think that's a part that people do enjoy because it's as much of it as like the futuristic setting. It's like it's four different things in my mind, at least, that make that show what it is. And yes, it's Batman as the old retired man in the chair, but it's the setting and the everything else I just said, not to be redundant. And I'm glad we never got, what their interpretation would have been, because we would have lost. The appeal of that movie would have been in the visuals beyond just the old man Batman. Like, I get it. That's cool, but that movie
Modern Warner Brothers has a really bad track record.
Dude, that or a Spider-Man 2099 movie could be just
I already
really
don't give
cool
a shit about Miguel O'Hara. Like, I don't care.
He's better than Miles Morales.
I mean,
because Miguel O'Hara's story is not the same as Peter Parker's. Miles Morales' story is just
I'll give you that
Peter
much,
Parker.
but I need
Peter
him
Parker
just
with
as
parents.
much, which
That's
is
it. That's
which
what
is,
it is. It's
I will give you that much for sure. However, I need him about equally as much, which is to say, not at all. And I apply that to literally anybody who is Peter Parker.
Here's the thing, though. I've always been fine with it because it takes place in a time where Spider-Man will die. He's not a superhero that has invincibility. He dies. He's
not going to live
lifespan.
200 years. Yeah, no,
he's going to live to be like a 75, 80-year-old man if he's lucky with all the shit he does. Like insurance adjusters would not want to give him a fucking anyway.
Nope.
I've always been fine with that because it's a cool futuristic setting. I didn't like the animated Spider-Verse. I didn't like anything they did with that movie. I thought it was just a commercial for action figures. And here's a fucking wall of action figures. If I'm bitching about it, come on. I literally have a little Cyclops just chilling here because, he was on the floor. I was like, oh, set him here. Like, I like that kind of stuff. Sell me the product, sell me the stuff, but just give me something exciting too. Don't sell me the whole movie's here's a pan shot of all these different CGI rendered Spider-Man, and you're supposed to freeze frame. Like, fuck that. It's ain't Where's Waldo. It's a movie. Tell me a goddamn story. Don't sell me internet bite-sized little snippets of bullshit that you can sell me on social media to pay $18 to go see it. Like, I want a story. I don't care if it's old school, whatever. Just give me a full story and don't sell me on the movie is this gimmick. It's like a fucking 3D movie. That's lame. Nobody likes that. We don't do that anymore, thankfully. If they
This
brought
is an Avatar 2009.
Nine.
Is that when the
Yeah,
movie
like-
came out? Yeah.
dude, I'm glad James Cameron proved everybody wrong, I guess, but I fucking hated Avatar 2. Like, whatever. It was so
I
dumb.
don't even remember it.
Exactly.
remember
I
the first
still
one,
haven't
too.
seen it because I just don't care.
Like, but you tell me True Lies, I can remember True Lies vividly because that's when he actually made movies.
I have heard nothing. I've heard very limited positive things about the 4K transfer. I've heard a lot more negative than I've heard positive. So,
Yep.
I don't
They
know if I
got
can
rid of a
pull the
lot
trigger.
of the film grain to try and make it because so James Cameron filmed on Super 35 for basically at home release issues to mitigate at home release issues and also like home theater stuff. But I think what he ended up doing is he put it through an AI processor to make it like ultra HD and remove the grain that bothered James Cameron. And I'm like, I don't know, man, because sometimes that grain removal creates an unrealistic looking image on your product. And I think that's what a lot of people are complaining about. And I completely understand that.
Yeah, I don't like when Cameron or Lucas plays with stuff after the fact. I get it, maybe fixing match shots or a director's cut. That's all fine and dandy, but like changing all of that shit, it changes the feel of the movie, and then I enjoy the grain. Like when I get the right 4K movies, it feels like I'm watching it for the first time, and then I want to go back and experience it because it feels more real. It's like what you would get in the theater, what you would get to be able to see all the detail in Marty's neighborhood, or it feels like RoboCop's in your living room. Like that actually matters to me when I watch these movies because it keeps me engaged more. What it does is it removes that thin layer of reality versus fantasy. Every time you upgrade a generation, it's like on video, you're watching the static lines and the little play that blinks and shit. Okay, DVD looks better, but then you got the matte lines of, the widescreen. So you're like, it's theatrical, but it's whatever. Blu-ray looks great. And then you get to the next one, you're like, wow, it actually looks like I'm there. So until VR can put me in the fucking movie, I want the grain. I want that natural look. I never realized how much I needed it until I really got into 4K film.
It also strengthens the power of it strengthens the power of the content where if you can look past the grain and get lost in the story to experience what's going on there, and then that just shows that that you did a better job with your actors, your talent, your editing, all the things that matter, to the point where the audience is like, yeah, film grain, don't even notice.
I don't think you need, and I wasn't trying to minimize what you said. I agree 100%. I don't think you need to appeal to the audience that would bitch about film grain because
Right.
they weren't going to be there for your movie. They don't have the attention span. You can't change a product to make it appeal to the TikTok generation just because they can't focus on anything longer than, oh, that grain bothers me, I'm going to go and look at my phone. Like, they weren't there for that movie. Okay, you got to like get newer audiences members before they get that lack of attention in with how movies should function, or rely on us to keep buying this shit until it all kind of fades away. But here's the thing: don't keep selling us the same shit. Give us something new and our shit we like. Like I'm happy that The Rock's at WrestleMania wearing a fucking shirt with him on it. Like I'm pumped. But there are new wrestlers to go see too. If this was only The Rock show, I wouldn't be as excited. So you gotta, while you have us, give us the next thing to get invested in that doesn't degrade the thing we like. That's what I'm trying to get at. I think everybody can agree with that. Where it's like, hey,
leverage the things that people already love properly to get people to buy into the new things you're also trying to get them to get hooked on, without demeaning the thing that they already love, because that's a great way to have the opposite effect. As we
thank
have
you, Star
seen.
Wars.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lucasfilm.
Shrubbles08 says another Max Brooks recommendation is the Harlem Hellfighters. Also, the French made a duckbill gas mask just for you to pee on. I'll take another one. Let me press the button and then I'll ask Script to see if he's ever heard of the gas mask duckbill that you pee on.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one.
Chuck E. Cheese says Andrew should watch Red Letter Media's Mr. Plinkett Star Wars prequel reviews.
I mean, I guess I could. I don't really feel compelled to watch anybody's prequel reviews at this point. I know that I enjoy the prequels overall. I know that George Lucas is dog shit at dialogue in those movies for the most part after the first one. I know that those films require external media in order to feel like they're telling a truly complete story, but it doesn't stop me from enjoying them. So, I mean, I don't frequently put stock in the reviews of others for things. Like it's really, really seldom. Like really seldom. Like Jeff, like your reviews of X-Men 97 have been some of the precious few in recent years to where I've been like, okay, like I think I'm actually gonna go watch that at some point here because I trust the individual that's reviewing it. But for the most part, I don't really give half a shit about other people's opinions on things. I just don't. I prefer to consume something on my own and make my own determination, and then match that up with like, okay, what are other people saying? Maybe did they see something I didn't? Did they not see something that I did? And kind of compare and contrast that way. I don't like to do that retroactively though. I don't like to, first hear what other people are saying for the most part and then watch it because I don't like to go into things with preconceptions when I can avoid it. Appreciate that, Joe Chucky.
Chuck E. Cheese also said Macho Man button. Here's the Macho Man button we currently have. I gotta get the other Macho Man, the breathing one. Since you requested a longer one, it was short. Here's this one.
Shut your mouth, you thong wearing fatty.
Skinny Rock. I mean, skinny compared to how he is now. He's built like a.
Oh yeah,
but like I mean, he was still jacked then. But like now, it's like, well, okay.
One thing I will tell you about the Red Letter Media reviews is they're not people sitting like reviewing a movie for like hours. They're comedy videos, so they're really funny. Now, I will say
they have one that is brilliant.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep. Yeah, honestly, go out of your way to watch it because it's not what you think it is. There's a reason their channel has the subscribers they have because they can make some really funny, fucked up shit.
Okay.
But there's also a lot of like
I've literally never watched them, so maybe I'll take a look.
A lot of channels worship at the altar that is Red Letter Media. I tend to not watch those channels because I could just watch Red Letter Media instead of just hearing the same opinions trickle down.
Sure.
But like other than that,
and I just go to the source.
Yeah, they're still funny. I like them.
All right, I'm here for it.
So, the audience hasn't said anything else, and so guys, I think it's time to go because, well, I got WrestleMania to go to tomorrow.
Say you're only a couple days removed from WrestleMania. You need to.
Oh shit! My vacation starts tomorrow at 10:00. Like,
yeah,
nice.
I have a toy video for you guys. If I get a Tank Tread of ones right now, I'll make you an Acolyte toy video. You just got to tell me if you want it like right now. The audience has the power. Let's see a Tank Tread of ones.
You have
also, too. What else I can say? Be on the lookout. I'll give you the Larry Bundy interview before we go and a couple other things. But folks, let's keep on hitting that thumbs up button, helping us get to 200K. We want the gold play button here on WCBS. We will settle for nothing else. Silver's great, but you remember gold. We got a flair for the gold, as they would say. All right, keep them coming. Clone Geek really wants that video. All right, Clone Geek, your enthusiasm alone makes me excited. But folks, always be on the lookout for Woke Busters. Like I said, and like I've been saying for the last year since I've been back, well, actually since I've ever done anything with Woke Busters, always listen to the show for all your updates. If you have any questions, ask us directly. Like I said at the beginning, you can find out all the information if you back on Indiegogo. Your books will probably get to you first, but they will all be autographed with the first edition stickers and all of those wonderful things. So be on the lookout for the new campaign. We're going to make Woke Busters the biggest thing of 2024, 2025, and so on. It's a huge epic. I can't wait to bring it to you. And it's almost here. Like I've been talking about for weeks now. I'm done. Just waiting on the last few pieces to be put into place. But is there anything else you guys would like to say? Script Doctor, where can we find you on the internet, my friend?
You can find me on Twitter and YouTube on Saturdays, where I do a screenplay review show called Scripts on Saturdays. And I also have a Patreon. I just dropped a little food for thought on my Patreon this morning with regards to what happens if you find yourself in a situation where you think someone might have stolen your script and sold it to a studio. So, and it parallels on a recent ruling that happened to a person out there who had that same question. So go check out that musing I posted there. And share your thoughts in the comment sections on that too.
That sounds like useful information. Guys, go check out Scripts channel.
Oh, it's pretty useful. It's not legal advice, but it's very good general advice.
That sounds extremely informative. Check that out, guys. Absolutely.
Andrew, where can we find you?
You can find me fooling around over on Twitter, kind of, sort of, but mainly with the Rippaverse. But my favorite place to be is here with you guys every Tuesday night, here with Jeff, here with Script, here with you in the chat. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, showing up, showing out, and showing all the love. There's a lot of cool stuff to be excited about coming down the pipeline. Got Wokebusters coming here. Got a lot of books coming over at the Rippaverse as well. It's a great time to be a fan. It may suck in certain aspects because, Lucasfilm's been doing us dirty. DC's been doing us dirty. Marvel's been doing us dirty. But there's a lot of indie stuff coming down the pipeline that's worth being hyped about. So get hyped for Wokebusters. Get hyped for Yaira. Get hyped for those of you who are horror fans. Bloodruth #1, written by the Saska sisters. That's going to be coming this fall.
I will buy that book if you watch every horror movie on their list.
That's actually not the worst deal in the world because I've already told them I would watch their list, so I don't want to tell them I'm going to watch the list and then not watch the list. And they write horror, so they know how to do kind of scary shit. So yeah, all right, deal.
There we go. So folks, goodbye for the week. I know you're gonna miss us. I know we've been amping up the content and you've been loving it. Don't worry. When I come back, there'll be even more. We're gonna kick it off because that's how momentum works. But be on the lookout for new content from WCBS in the coming days. Then find us at WrestleMania or don't. And then join us back here next week. I will probably be exhausted. Oh, wait, no, there will not be a High Council next week. Excuse me, I'll be on the road. So there is no show next week. Sorry, I'm glad I remembered that right now because we leave Tuesday and I need to be up and ready on Wednesday morning to be on the Side Scrollers podcast. So find me there next.
No High Council next week, guys. Mark it on your calendars.
I know you'll have to do something else like watch a rerun of this week's High Council that will not air in its place.
Are you going to put up a different High Council up as a rerun?
Maybe. It is not at the top of the list. The toy video is number one.
Fair enough.
People come up to me all the time like, I love your toy videos. Somebody came up to me in the store the other day as I was making it. I'm like, hey, man, what's up?
They're great. I love them. I can't wait to see that video with the Reva
I went to a store I've never gone to before, and I was surprised. Like, in the wake of Toys R Us's absence, this place is really picking up the slack, and I was impressed. So if you want to see that store, folks, join me this week on the new toy video. But as always, folks, thank you for watching. Be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.